Welcome to the Trading Sliders Podcast. Here we go, episode number 26 of the Trading Sliders Podcast. How's everybody doing out there today? I'm Bobby Puckett. Here with me in studio is Kurt the Flash Bennett. What's going on, Flash?
Not much, Bobby. Just had a good night last night. Got to go see some racing.
Yeah, we made a trip out to the races this weekend. I seem to forget the guest, but this week's guest is Artie B. Ware. Artie is a six-time figure eight champion. I've had a bunch of requests of a bunch of old racetrack segments, and his name come up a lot. So we're going to get into that. This week's show being brought to you by Diesel Boys LLC. We want to give a big shout out and thank you to Brandon Hooker at Diesel Boys for coming on as title sponsor. And we also want to thank Kentucky Clutch and Performance for sponsoring us from day one on the Deep Dives conversation. And Walt at Speed Decals, he always takes care of us. And Walt's been a continuous sponsor from day one, so we want to thank him too. Walt's going to be the slider of the week, kind of. We're just kind of mowed into that.
Yeah.
And we're still looking for a sponsor for Crash of the Week. So if you guys want to know anybody that want to help out, get your name out there. But please, reach out. If you need any diesel work at all, reach out to Diesel Boys LLC. They also sell race car parts for the guys here in Southern Indiana.
I think I was actually looking on the website. I think they do a lot of work other than just diesel stuff too. They do other things too, I think.
Yeah, they do all type of mechanic work.
Yeah.
Any type of mechanic work you need. And then Kentucky Clutch and Performance, if you need any type of clutch, racing part, whatsoever, Chris and the guys at Kentucky Clutch can take care of it. And if it's something that's really broken, tore up, I'm probably going to be the one welding the stuff back together. So
yeah,
come in and see us. And then, like I said, Walt at Speed Decals. If you've seen a good-looking race car in the past 20 years in our area, it's 9 times out of 10, there was either one or two people.
Yep.
Either Walt or Rick Irwin took care of it. So reach out to those guys, friends and supporters. So what's going on, Flash? We had a weekend road trip this weekend we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Racers Race. Got a little story about a guy getting hurt and still racing. We're going to talk about that. Crash of the week. We had a massive crash.
Oh, yeah.
We can't even negotiate crash of the week this week. Massive crash down in Swainsboro. And then weekend double down. We got a guy that picked up 2 again this weekend. Seems to be a common theme. And then we might have a little hidden gem in the South that we need to talk about. All that on this week's show, but we're going to get started off with our trip this weekend / we'll call it the Atomic Brownstown recap.
Yeah.
Lucas Oil Late Model Series was at Atomic Friday night. I know I checked it out. Well, actually, while I was doing some other podcast stuff, I checked it out on TV, and I know you watched it as well.
Yeah, I got to watch it, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I didn't make the trip because they were starting a little too early. I didn't get off work till 4, and I couldn't make it there in time.
Well, if you would have left here at 4, you would have made it there in time to leave.
Yep.
Because they were done early.
Yeah. They ran through the show. That was good.
And kudos to Lucas Oil and James Essex for keeping the show rolling this weekend because it was pretty chilly at both places.
Yeah.
Weather was nice throughout the day, but it got chilly quick.
And great crowds at both places, though.
Ended up with...
Lucas Oil?
Yeah, ended up with 33 super late models, the Lucas Oil Late Model Series. Weather was a little suspect, but it was... They got the races in, so it was... earlier in the week, we thought maybe one was going to get canceled, maybe both.
Yeah.
And then the sun broke a little bit and got a little cool. But
a little windy,
but they got done early.
Both nights,
Yeah, both nights. So shout out to James Essex and the guys at the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series for getting the show on the road because they had a packed house both nights and, the fans didn't have to sit there all night. So the Friday night at Atomic, they ended up with 33 super late models. RTJ took the win over Josh Rice and Devin Moran. If you just looked at the box score, it says RTJ wins. There's nothing to talk about. But that's not how the race shook out.
No.
Kind of common thread this weekend in the Lucas Oil division, really.
Yeah. It was a good race between him and Rice, man. Rice was rolling.
Yeah, I think if the caution didn't come out, Josh Rice had a legitimate shot of getting him a Lucas Oil win there at Atomic.
Yeah, caution and traffic would have worked out for him, I think, maybe,
Well, Rice's car was rotating a little bit better on the top. Thornton, once he can use the whole racetrack.
Yeah.
He had so much drive, but Rice was just getting through traffic.
Yeah. Rice was doing what Rice does on the top.
Josh Rice was pulling Josh Rice. He's throwing him over his shoulder.
Yep.
Going on the top.
Throwing sparks off the wall.
And just doing his thing. So, but hell of a race. It's kind of a shame the caution came out with 10 to go because think everybody in the stands kind of knew. I think James Essex even kind of knew, and Josh Rice said, "Well, when that caution came out, I was kind of a sitting duck." And
I tell you, a little earlier in the race, though, what happened is when Fast 49 got into that slow car.
Yeah, Davenport ran it. Yeah, because Davenport had a good run going at.
He had a really good run going, and then that slow car. And I think he was mad that night a little bit, but like I listened to his interview last night, and he talked about it, and I think he figured out, it was just one of those things.
Well,
you're going to be mad when it first happens.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that at Brownstown too as well. But because at Brownstown we had a couple guys that were a little upset, and one was apologetic. And when they go back and watch the video, I don't think it played out that way.
He probably shouldn't have been. Yeah,
so,
it wasn't really his fault.
but I get it in the heat of the moment. Hell, even Superman messes up.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those things. Superman was like, I kind of probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
but it happens. I mean, hell, we've all been there.
Oh yeah,
and we're not Superman, so
right.
Hell, I screw up all the time.
Yeah,
I mean that's part of it. So RTJ took the win, and I think he took the point lead back over.
Yeah.
By taking the win. So as always, RTJ is going to be a contender. I seen a thing where RTJ said he really contemplated on going and running the World of Outlaw Series, but he's out of help. It's just him and one other guy. They had a couple kids from UNOH helping him this weekend. A couple guys, that filled in.
Yeah.
Thought they wanted to be on the road, and after going on the road last year, they was like, "Whoa, this is way too hard.
This ain't for me."
Yeah. So RTJ's been the crew chief and everything. He said with having a notebook of the Lucas tracks, it just makes more sense for them to run Lucas.
For them to run there, yeah.
Yeah, he said, because I don't have a crew chief that knows what these tracks are going to do, and he's just winging it. He's doing it RTJ style. He's doing it on his own again. So
yeah, and you was talking about the UNOH guys. I was going to mention that too, because my nephew he actually drove one of the cars for UNOH up there. But there was about 10 of those guys at Brownstown last night, and I guess they just div him up when they get there sometimes. I don't know. Cause I noticed I did get to walk through the pits last night, and I seen those guys back there.
Yeah, I think Devin Moran had 3 or 4.
Yeah.
RTJ had a couple. And I think... I don't remember who was parked next to Devin Moran.
Yeah.
Brandon Overton.
Yeah,
I think Overton had a couple also.
And that's really cool for those guys to let them guys come in there and help them like that too, I mean...
I tell you who needs to hire about half of those guys? It's Turbo.
Yeah.
Because...
Turbo's working on his stuff all night.
Like, Turbo... I've never been a huge fan of this kid.
Yeah.
But more and more, I like him more and more each week. He's the dude that, he drives the shit off his car and, he'll tear it up.
Yeah.
But he's also the one working on it.
Yeah.
All the time. Every time I see him, he's working on his shit.
Yeah.
So,
cool story about that. One of our buddies that was racing there last night, his kid wanted to meet Turbo. So they walked over, and, Turbo was working on his car, pulling the whole nose off the car. And he goes, "Can I get your autograph?" He goes, "Hang on, man, I'll do you better than that." So he takes the whole nose off the car, bumper and all, and gives it to the kid.
Yeah. Yeah, and Philip told me...
I don't know if he just didn't want to haul it home.
Yeah, we'll have problems.
But no, it was really cool that he did
shit
that.
was tore up. He probably didn't want it, but...
Because that would be cool hanging up in your garage.
Yeah. Garage hell.
Yeah.
Philip told me that...
that's going in the bedroom?
Cole was like, "No, that's going in the bedroom."
Yeah.
He's hanging out on the wall. So I was like, "Well, you might want to at least take the $30 worth of bolts out of the bumper."
Yeah.
So
I thought that was pretty cool. Turbo would do that.
But yeah, shout out to Turbo because he's been the B-main bandit for the last couple of nights. His words, not mine.
Yeah.
But I'm becoming a fan of Turbo, and UNOH isn't too far from their shop.
Yeah.
So he may want to go down and cherry pick all the guys.
Yeah.
Well. Knowing Turbo, he might be letting him go help these other guys first.
Right.
And then find out what they're doing.
He might be way ahead of us.
Yeah. So screw what I'm saying, Turbo. You're doing it right.
Yeah.
But, and then Saturday, like I said, we went to Brownstown Speedway, Trading Sliders group. Well, hell, we had about 10 people hanging out with us. So
that was cool.
Shout out to everybody who came out and hang out in turn 4. Even though a couple of the pavement guys was bitching about who wants to sit in turn 4 because of the dirt, Jamie Goodman.
Yeah. We're not going to mention all names.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention. I told him, I said, "Flash, you race at Salem Speedway.
Yeah.
You get leaves, sand, tree branches blowing in off the backstretch. You're bitching about a little bit of dirt. Come on, man." So, but no,
apparently they haven't sat in turn 1 during the feature. Because it would have been a lot different story.
Especially with the way the wind was blowing last night. Yeah, if you sat in turn 1 last night, it was a little rough.
Yeah.
But Brownstown Speedway, they ended up with 34 super late models. Devin Moran took the win over RTJ and Davenport. Another same story if you look at the box score, it's like, well, Devin Moran led every lap.
Yeah.
But that's not how the race played out.
Yeah.
Second through fifth and sixth at one point was an absolute dogfight. RTJ threw a slider. He did all he could do.
Yeah.
And Moran just turned back under him. Moran was just the best car. But
yeah. Did you hear him in his interview, though? He said that was more of a defensive mode than it was trying to win the race.
He was making sure he didn't get slid.
He said, I figured that he was going to get back under, he's going to get back under me, but I'd come out in second anyway. So.
But shout out to Mike Marlar, who ran fourth, started 10th. I think Marlar used his right rear tire up, but the guys going forwards might be in trouble with Mike Marlar in this new Infinity by Wells car.
Yeah,
because Marlar looked like Mike Marlar of 15 years ago.
And he was good on the bottom or the top. It didn't matter.
Yeah, Marlar reminded me of Mike Marlar when he was back in the old CJ Rayburn cars.
Yeah.
I mean, he was all over the racetrack. I mean, could pass top, bottom. So a motivated Mike Marlar may be bad for these guys going forward.
Yeah.
I know he had a rough speed week. Had a rough start, but he come home. And one thing you can't say about Mike Marlar, he's not afraid to scrap everything and start over.
Yeah.
He.
And I was going to say something to you, Bobby, and ask you about this. They're not getting as many cars as they used to. They're only getting 30, 35 cars everywhere they go, where they was getting 40, 45. But I think the racing is just crazy incredible. I think everybody is so much more aggressive now than what they was. I mean, well, it's just, I don't know if it just looks like that.
Well, no, I've got a theory on this.
Yeah.
I think this comes from about 5 guys.
Yeah.
5 guys have molded the whole dirt late model world. RTJ.
Yeah.
Bobby Pierce. Ashton Winger.
Yep.
Turbo.
Yeah.
Those guys just run so hard. I think even guys like
if
Davenport.
You're going to beat them, that's what you got to do.
I think guys, even guys like Davenport and Marlar and they're just.
That's what I was thinking. Like Davenport and Marlar, those two guys were usually the most conservative on the racetrack all the time, and now they seem like they're just throwing it over their shoulder and going.
Well, that's when the guys that's winning 25 races a year are doing that. You can't really be conservative. It kind of reminds me a lot of Bloomquist Moyer, because a lot of people would always say that Bloomquist later in his career, he was so easy on equipment.
Yeah.
Well, Moyer was the one that was easy on his equipment, and Bloomquist was running every lap like it was the last one.
Right.
Until he figured out, a lot of people don't realize, they just remember when Bloomquist was winning all the 100-lap races.
Right.
But forever, Bloomquist ran second to Moyer because he used his stuff up.
Right.
Well, now we've got 400-lap races a year. And in those 100-lap races, you have Davenport, Del McDowell, the guys that can still be conservative, win those races.
Yeah.
I know Pierce has won, but when Pierce has won the 100-lap races, it's usually been because the track is hammered down. You didn't have to save nothing.
Right.
I think it has a lot to do with the kids that are just more aggressive racing.
Right.
And the fans are the one that's benefiting from it.
Yeah, we're benefiting from it for sure.
Yeah, because 10 years ago, the guys racing for 6th in the first race in March, they're not throwing haymakers like they do now.
Yeah. At one point last night, they were 3 wide for second for like 4 laps.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
And I'll tell you another reason why I think this may be too. A lot of people shit on social media and TikTok and all that stuff, but these kids see all these videos and they're selling merchandise by throwing sliders.
Oh, yeah.
They're selling merchandise by running the top. The races pay great. Don't get me wrong. Last night, $25,000 to win.
Yeah.
But did Devin Moran sell a bunch of shirts because he won? Probably not. I mean, he's got his fans, but the kids that's at the racetrack, and especially if you've been at other forms of racing and you've never really been to this, and you see RTJ or Brandon Shepherd rip the top and then throw a bomb under the bottom and slide up in front of 2 guys. It goes a long way in selling T-shirts and stuff. So I'm not saying those guys are running that hard to sell T-shirts, but once you start selling T-shirts,
that's a big part of it. They get a lot of money from that, to keep their team going.
And one thing I did want to mention about Brownstown in the heat race last night, Hudson O'Neal, and it's funny how stuff works out, because you always think like, these 2 guys are in the same heat race, they're going to have an issue. It just happened to work this way.
It just happened to be those 2.
Yeah. Shepherd got a big run, and Hudson was a sitting duck, because coming off turn 4, he was losing about 4 car lengths a lap.
Yeah.
Shepherd got a huge run down the backstretch and ripped the top and pulled up. But when Shepherd dropped off on the front stretch, and the left front come up in the air. When he came back on the track, it looked like Hudson stuck him in the wall. But Hudson had no idea he was out there.
Yeah.
Hey, and number two, when he came back on the track, the car darted left. He hit the 71 car and crashed himself. So I know he was pissed, and I seen Mark Richards throw his hands up on the four-wheeler or the dirt bike when he's pulling off the track. Like, I get all that, but when you go back and watch it, I know Hudson apologized for it, totally my fault. Hudson, that was not your fault.
Yeah.
It was not your fault at all.
Yeah.
You don't need to some of them you may want to apologize for, but that one wasn't it.
That wasn't one of them, that's for sure.
So, and Brandon Shepard, all the respect in the world for B-Shep. I think he's one of the most talented race car drivers there is, but in the heat of the moment, I get being upset.
Yeah.
But that was just a racing deal.
Yeah.
If you didn't drop off the right rear, you wouldn't have got the right rear. So.
I think Shepard had to have it about 3 times in the feature with other guys too. So
yeah, I think he figured it out. He's like, son of a bitch.
He was probably ready to just park that thing.
Yeah. So B-Shep and the Rocket One house car still having a rough go.
Yeah.
Mark Richards, he's probably about to pull his hair out.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it happens.
You know how Shepard is, though. He'll get turned around, and then he's going to be super hard to beat. That's the way he always does.
Yeah, well, right now they're still playing in the other guy's playground.
Yeah.
Once they get over it.
Oh, yeah. Once they get in his territory, it's going to be on.
Yeah, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. So,
yeah.
But overall, good weekend. One thing I will say, Brownstown Speedway, I've had the best lemonade I've ever had at the racetrack.
Oh, yeah.
The older lady in the pits that makes the lemonade, hats off to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can give you some kind of lemonade of the week or some kind of award, but man, that stuff was good.
Oh, yeah.
So along with the 55 gallons of Sloppy Joe that they made.
Yeah, they put Sloppy Joe on everything.
On everything.
Yeah.
And I ate Sloppy Joe on everything. So good weekend at Brownstown. And the races were done by 9:30.
Yeah.
Home by 10:30. So I can watch the high limit complete show just about.
Yeah.
So next we're going to talk about the high limit swing. West Coast swing. Wednesday they was at Tulare Thunderbowl. Friday and Saturday at Bakersfield and Paris. We're not going to get into a real big deep dive on this, but one thing I want to say, Tulare Thunderbowl Flash.
Yeah.
First time you've seen it, what do you think of it?
I liked it. That place is awesome.
Yeah, that's California to the bone.
Yep.
We're going to get ruts, we're going to get cushions, and you're going to have to stand on it and race.
Yeah.
So Tulare Thunderbowl, they ended up with 40 cars. Kyle Larson took the win. Nothing negative at all to say about that.
No.
You know the place is going to be good when they got to pull the haulers in the pits.
Yeah.
With tractors.
Yeah.
Because it's so wet. But Tulare Thunderbowl was good. Then Friday at Bakersfield, hold on, back up. Because this is going to be our slider of the week.
Okay.
Aaron Reitzel took a rock to the face at Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And busted him up bad. Had to get stitches. 2 black eyes. Busted nose.
Yeah, busted his nose.
And when we say racers race, Aaron Reitzel is a racer. This happened on Saturday night. And Wednesday, he showed up at Tulare Thunderbowl and was like, let's do this thing. Looked like he'd been in a fight with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Did have a rock screen in. I know all that rock screen, no rock screen.
Yeah.
He decided, I guess I'm going to put a rock screen in because I just got my teeth knocked out.
Yeah.
But Saturday at Paris Auto Speedway, I know it rubbered up, and I know the track wasn't that great, but Aaron Reitzel took the win.
Yeah.
Less than a week after getting his face rearranged by rocks.
Yeah.
So Slider of the Week is going to Aaron Reitzel.
Yeah.
Slider of the Week presented by Speed Decals this week will be Aaron Reitzel because of, living by our motto, racers race.
Right.
He could have just said, you know what, I'm going to take these few days off, but no, he showed up and raced. Now back to Bakersfield. Bakersfield Friday night, they ended up with 37 cars. Brad Sweet took the win. They did everything they could to get the track good.
Right.
It just wasn't.
Yeah, it just wasn't that great.
The wind was blowing about 40 mile an hour, and it looked like it. And the same thing at Paris Auto.
Yeah.
They've dealt with the wind all week, and it just wasn't that good. The facility is not super nice, but
Paris looked like a really cool track.
No,
too.
Paris Auto Speedway is awesome. It got a bad showing, and our guy Jack Slash, doing Jack Slash things.
Yeah.
He puts up a clip from Paris Auto 2 weeks ago where they're going 3 wide. He said, see the difference?
Yeah, I seen that. I seen that this morning.
So Jack Slash staying true to Jack Slash.
Yeah.
Not that he's shitting on wing sprint cars, but he just loves non-wing sprint cars.
Just tell you how it is.
Yeah, but one thing I want to say about Bakersfield, our Kevin Harvick's Kern County at Bakersfield, or Bakersfield at Kern County by Kevin, whatever they're calling it. I'm glad that the racetrack got revived. I'm glad that they did a rework. The facility's nice. The catch fence is nice. It's a beautiful facility, but it's just not Bakersfield.
Yeah,
it's not like, let's just call it Kevin Harvick, Kern County.
Yeah,
and let's just leave Bakersfield out because you're gonna make a lot of people upset.
Yeah,
it's not the Bakersfield of old.
Right. That track's in a totally different place too, right?
Yeah, no,
because I've been to the other. I mean, I didn't get to see the track, but I went to the track to look at it, but I couldn't get in to see it.
But you went to the hood Bakersfield.
Yeah. Definitely.
the new Bakersfield's the suburbs Bakersfield.
Yeah. Okay.
It's you went to the Bakersfield in Edgewood.
Yeah.
The Bakersfield now is in Prospect.
Yeah.
So it was one of those type deals.
I was gonna say it was quite. We stayed in a Motel 6 there because we was going to see the Sequoias the next day. But I said, I'm gonna ride down at least look at the racetrack. So while we was out there, so I rode down and looked at it. But where we stayed at was pretty much. Could have been a few gunshots heard that night.
Yeah, that's
it was rough.
So the new Bakersfield's not the old Bakersfield in good ways and bad ways, but hopefully they'll get it figured out because turns 3 and 4 race good, just 1 and 2 didn't. So
right.
But hats off to them spending the money and taking care of that. Last event we're going to cover. Well, actually we got 2 events, but we'll just go ahead and cover the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars real quick. Only thing you need to know is David Gravel's like, guys. I'm glad everybody's coming to play, but you guys just ride around behind me because I'm going to kick your ass. That's what he did both nights at Cotton Bowl Speedway. David Gravel, he doubled down and just said, screw it, guys. This is the way it is. I'm going to go on a record and say they got 70 races. If the season continues like it is, there's a chance Gravel may win 25 to 30 of them.
Yeah.
He's that good right now. So, not that we're hating on him for it, but there's not really nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
He kicked their ass. So,
yeah.
The World of Outlaw late models at maybe the hidden gem of the South Flash.
Oh, yeah.
Swainsboro Raceway, we talked about it a few weeks ago with the Hunt to Front series. But Swainsboro is one of those places it's in the South, but it looks like it should be in Iowa or Indiana or Illinois or Northern Ohio. It races like a Midwestern racetrack.
Yeah, you can race top, bottom. That's what I like about it. Well, not all the way on the wall, but you can run.
Well, Bobby Pierce kind of ran all the way on the wall Friday night.
Friday night, didn't he?
But Friday night they had 42 super late models. Bobby Pierce took the win over Ryan Gustin. And this week's Crash of the Week presented by the Trading Sliders this week because we're still looking for a sponsor.
Yeah.
Hint, hint, if somebody wants to reach out. But the Crash of the Week goes to Tristan Chamberlain and the 17 cars that piled in with him.
Yeah, Kyle Bronson was on top of him.
Yeah, Kyle Bronson sitting on, and Bronson gives the best interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you guys, I'm sure you've seen it floating around social media. If you haven't, go to all the stuff on Dirt Vision or just YouTube, the World of Outlaw late models. The highlights on the second lap. Chamberlain clips the U-tire, turns it sideways, gets hit, rolls over. Bronson lands on top of him, and like I said, the rest of the field piles in the wall behind him in turn 1. So
I think there were 17 cars in it.
Yeah, I think that's what it said. It was 17. It was 17 car pile up. Out of a 24 car field. It was a hell of a wreck. Glad everybody's okay, but if you guys, the kids got good looking shirts, but if you guys want to reach out to Tristan Chamberlain and buy some merch, or even Kyle Bronson, he tore up a bunch of stuff underneath.
Yeah. Man, Kyle's crew, give him credit though, man. They had like 10 minutes to work on a thing after they got them cars apart, and it had every corner was bent on it. The breather was falling off of it. They fixed all that stuff and got him back out there, and something else happened. He ended up not finishing, I don't think. But
yeah,
they ended up having to come back in and cut the top off. Oh, they come back in to cut the top off. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And they started the race before he got back out there.
Yeah. No caution, no courtesy laps. Yeah. and Kyle Bronson told him about it. He told him about getting no courtesy laps. But that's in Kyle Bronson fashion. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, Ryan Gustin took the win over Ashton Winger. I think Gustin started 4th or 5th. But when I say the place races like a Midwestern track, just look at the 2 guys that won. Bobby Pierce, Ryan Gustin.
Yeah.
Illinois, Iowa guys, Iowa kids. And that place, I've never been there, but it's on the list. I want to go check it out.
Yeah.
Swainsboro. I know it got a bad rap for a while, but the guys that's got it now, it races really, really good.
Yeah, I was glad to see Winger get up and get second too. That was pretty good.
Yeah, Ashton Winger's
He's had a little bit of rough.
He's had a rough start. Yeah. Ever since the Buzzy Ruderman modified race down in Volusia, he just hasn't got going.
It looked like he finally had it going the other night though.
No, and it happened. So that was a quick rundown of everything that went on this weekend. This week's guest is Artie Ware. So you guys, we're gonna go to this old racetrack segment, and we'll come back with upcoming events. It's time for the Trading Sliders Deep Dives presented by Kentucky Clutch and Performance. Let's take a trip down memory lane with the old racetrack segment.
We were there every Friday night when we were kids. We would sing along to We Will Rock You as they pulled out of the pits. Did you pull for Blackwell or Harmon? Did you go just to see some carnage? Yeah, I still smile every time that I look back on it at the old racetrack.
On this week's Trading Sliders Deep Dives / Old Racetrack segment, how's that feel? Old racetrack segment?
Yeah, one day I was a young buck out here, and then all of a sudden I woke up, I was the old guy.
Yeah. For everybody that's listening, it's how are we going to put this, Flash? Because we always got to have something witty to say.
Yeah.
It's the leader of the Artie party. How about that?
Yeah,
Artie P. Ware. What's going on, Artie? Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So we're doing this thing. It's called the Old Racetrack segment. When we first started doing this, everybody was like, "Man, I love this." So Kurt and I was like, "Hell, we'll do it every week."
Yeah.
And then I'm like, "No, let's not do that," because we're in the dirt world every night of the week, so let's make it special.
Right.
So not only are you old now, you're hanging out with two other old dudes talking about shit we used to do.
Right.
So, but for everybody out there, Artie Ware is a 6-time figure eight champion. Rookie figure eight at Louisville Speedway. He's won championships at the Sportsdrome Speedway, at Kentucky Motor Speedway. Won a championship at the Indianapolis Speedrome. Close to 200 feature wins. So there's the gist of the man we're talking to. Okay, so if there's something we ask him and you don't agree with, well, he's done it enough that it's going to be okay. All right. So we're going to get started. I always try to start these interviews off just a little edgy. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. Who did you hate? No, I'm just joking.
I did have rivals.
Yeah.
And I had guys I didn't like racing against.
Yeah.
No, I'm just not. I've been teasing Artie all day about this. So, how's grandpa life?
I love it.
Love it?
And my dad used to always say, same as all of them, if they's going to be this great, I'd have had them first. I'm like, heck with you.
Yeah.
Without me, you don't have them, you know. But we really got to the point in our life where we wanted a grandbaby. And Alex finally has one, then he has a second. And now my oldest daughter, Amber, which most people don't even know I have daughters.
Breaking news, he's got 2 daughters.
Yeah, and my oldest daughter, she has a daughter, and then she's got another one due here in April, and all 4 girls. So Kelly says, I've always said if I ever went back and coached again, I would do 10-year-old softball. And all these years I've been away from it, I never went back and coached again. Well, now that our granddaughters are starting to play t-ball, Kelly's like, I think you ought to coach. You're really good at it, and you really enjoy it. I'm like, man, I don't know.
So here's the thing. He's a coach now, and coming from someone that coached forever, good luck with that. You think promoting's bad? Wait till you get a pissed off mama.
All the years that I've done all that racing, I coached both my daughter's softball teams in 2 different age groups the whole entire time, and then I coached all of Alex's basketball all those years.
Yeah. So you started racing. You've done this for 35 years now. You started on racing dirt bikes. So let's get back to original, because you're a second generation racer. family's now third generation with your son racing.
Yeah.
But I know you go into the racetrack. You grew up around your dad, just like we all did. We didn't really have a choice. We just involved in racing.
It's part of our life.
Yeah, that's all we knew.
Yeah.
But how do you go from transitioning to dirt bikes to, all right, now I'm going to race?
It was real simple. I was turning 16, and my dad offered me a car if we sold my dirt bike. And at the time, I was just getting into girls a little bit. And I thought, you know what? I don't have to exercise, eat right, all that good stuff, and so I can win motocross races. I can just kind of chase girls and go have fun. And what kind of girl doesn't like a guy that drives a race car?
Well, yeah, that's simple enough. That's why I never raced dirt bikes.
Yeah.
He said exercise and eat right.
Right.
Pissed on that. I am not eating right, and I'm definitely not exercising. Yeah. My exercise is, all right, Flash, let's walk down to the concession stand and get another ribeye. That's the way I exercise. So, you first started at Louisville Speedway, correct?
My very first race was actually at Sportsdrome.
It's a common thread here.
Yeah.
We bought a car from Mike Russ, an old Ford Torino or something like that, and we took it out. And of course, you're young and you're cocky. You think you got the world by the balls. And I go out and I practice this thing, and it's not going anywhere. So Dad said, "You're just not getting up on the wheel." We get in the heat race. I got lapped in an 8-lap heat race. And I come in and I told Dad, I said, "If this is all we're going to do, I'm done. I'm not, you run it in the feature, and you tell me what you think."
Yeah.
Well, he went out and running about 3 laps, and he pulled it in. He said, "This thing's junk. We got to buy something else." So we went home that week, and Buddy Vertrees had an old 75 Monte Carlo.
Now he's talking. I was going to tell him his whole problem was he started in a Ford.
Yeah.
So we bought the Monte Carlo from him, and we put an old junkyard motor in it and a little RV cam like we used to do years ago. And we went to Louisville Speedway, and it was X110 was my number, because back then we had over 100 cars, so all the numbers were gone when I got there. And my dad's number was 10, so I chose X110. And we won my very first heat race I was in, and then I won the very first feature I was in at Louisville Speedway. And then it just got fired off from there.
Well, there's no turning back.
Cool.
Yeah,
That was a D feature, though.
Hey.
Hold on, I can edit that shit.
We don't have that in there.
It don't have to be a D feature. He wanted a feature.
I won a lot of dirt races where there's only 6 cars there. So.
No, I never told anybody the car count.
Yeah.
I was always kicking ass.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
That's right.
No, but they knew we were there. Well, yeah, it's because it was you and one other dude. Don't worry about why I was there.
They definitely knew you were at Highland Rim one time.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about that. That's something that I'm going to bring up because as I joke about the Artie party, since he brought it up, we'll get into it. I'm glad the Artie party was at Highland Rim one night.
Yeah.
Kurt, I don't know how many people it was going to take to whoop my ass, but I know how many he was going to use. I actually had a guy pull a gun. Yeah. No. I had a guy pull a gun on me.
Troy I was down there helping Troy Phillips. And when that started to go down, Troy looked at me. He said, "Don't you effing get involved in that." I'm like, "Dude, he's from our hometown. We got to go help him." And off we went.
It was bad. You know it's bad when you're in handcuffs on a golf cart and you get hit in the head with a beer bottle and the cop goes, "Yeah, you probably shouldn't have done that, huh?" I'm like, holy shit.
And what he means by shouldn't have done that, he means turn around and hit the guy head on the front stretch.
I was getting there. So that 75 lap race, sportsman race, I go down, I lead 74 of them.
Yeah.
And oh boy, don't be going into turn 1.
True story.
So I'm backed in the wall, and I'm pissed, but I'm just like, it's early in the year. Like, brand new car, it's early. Sportsdrome wasn't racing yet. That's how earlier in the year it was.
Right.
So I go to pull off, and like the left rear frame rail's on the ground, and this dude's coming down the front stretch.
And this is when the pucket comes out of him.
My dad got the best of me on that one.
Yeah.
So as he's coming down the front stretch, I was like, if I just fired up, I could hit that sumbitch head on. And I did.
As he did.
He took the checker flag. As he crosses our finish line, we hit motor to motor.
Yeah. I seen a picture of it.
Yeah, they were going to kill me.
Yeah.
So Artie and Eddie was down there with you. There was a bunch of them that made sure I got out of there alive. And of course, my dad, he thinks it's the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And but the funny thing about that whole thing was they're going to take me to jail that night. They're taking me to jail, and the guy that I hit comes down there and goes, I guess he's J Bob's cousin's brother or uncle. Everybody knows everybody in Ridgetop.
Yeah.
And he goes, I think I kind of deserve that. And that cop said, all right, well, I'm going to let you go. And I'm like, the hell you are? Yeah. You're going to drive me back to the pit. Get me out of here. Yeah. You're not going to let me walk across this pit. And so, funny story about that. And it was probably years later.
Yeah.
We're going to Talladega Short Track. I get off at the Highland Rail exit to get gas. My wife's walking in to go to the bathroom, and I'm getting gas, and they're walking out. And this guy pulls up to me and goes, hey, I think I know you. I said, oh, okay. He goes, did you hit some old boy head on? I said, yeah. And as Tanya comes out, I go, hey, get in the car. He goes, that's the damnedest thing I've ever seen, man. Hell yeah. And he drives off. But yeah, Artie saved my ass. Him and his crew saved me that night. It was me and like 2 other people there, and it was bad. Speaking of Artie saving me, I've got a little story about Artie, how he was saved a little bit one night. What happened at the Sportsdrome that night when everybody was fighting in the parking lot?
When you say everybody,
I mean you and your crew and their crew. I'm gonna let you tell the story.
if you're talking about Chris Harmon, I see where you're going here. Funny story that I heard on this end of it is...
This is all allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Chris spun me out in a heat race. And then we got into... I tried to get in a fight with him on the racetrack. And Beaner comes running down the guardrail like a cat on a hot tin roof, jumps on Chris's hood of the car, and he's trying to jump on top of Chris, and they're dragging him off of him. And meanwhile, Chris has got me stuck down in between the guardrail and his car. I can't hardly get up to him. Well, then after the race is over, I'm like, man, what was all that about? He said, it is what it is. That was his words to me. I'm like, what do you mean it is what it is? He said, it is what it is. I said, okay, I'm not going to do that right now because I'm not going to jail. It was championship night, and I knew Chris would stay around afterwards and pick off his checks up. And I said, when the races are over, I'm going to come outside and I'm whooping your ass. And he's like, whatever. So, and now I'm telling everybody in the pits, I'm whooping Chris's ass. So now I've got to back it up if he's out there. I'm hoping he left.
Hoping he left. He's gone.
So
I'm
walking out, and lo and behold, I look up, there's Chris's trailer. I'm like, shit. I said, I've got to punch him. I got to do something. Keep in mind, Chris is a foot taller than I am. So I walk up, and Jeff is standing there, and I said, which one of you MFers want some of me? I heard y'all going to jump me when I come out here. And Jeff steps back. He said, hey, ain't got nothing to do with me. And then Chris started talking, and I said, man, I can't believe you done me like that. That's just dirty. I never had anybody crash me in a freaking heat race. He said, again, it is what it is. So I punched him. And then we're wrestling around, and all I'm thinking at this time, I have no idea. I think I'm by myself. I had no idea my whole crew, that when I come around, I got 100 people with me.
Yeah.
Nowadays, only got 10 or 12.
Yeah.
But,
he done pissed off the crew.
Yeah.
You know?
So everybody's kind of scrimmaging around each other and letting me and Chris go at it. And I keep hearing Jeff going, let him go, let him go, let him go. And the whole time I'm thinking I'm getting ready to get killed by all these damn Harmons. And then if lo and behold, it all got broke up and went on its own way. Well, I heard the story. I've never been confirmed or not confirmed, but I heard I blacked Chris's eye when I hit him. And Tasha wouldn't let him go to church the next day.
I don't know about that.
And I'm like, so Tasha's hated me for years and years and years after all that, and I think we're okay now. She truly is a good person, but you know them women are, they can't seem to get over some of the hatred of their drivers.
Well, yeah, no, I know. I get that a lot.
Yeah.
I've been with my wife for 23 years, and she can tell you every incident I've had at the racetrack.
Yeah.
Not even racing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Or incidents on the way to the racetrack. Yeah. Like, she'll let me know. So you grew up watching your dad race, and a lot of people don't know this. Artie and I are kind of like distant cousins.
Yeah.
So Artie's dad and my grandma were cousins. So I don't know how that family tree works, but we're all here together.
It's almost one straight branch.
Yes. Yeah, it's Cape Taylor and Edgewood. If it wasn't for the bridge at Belmar, you could drive straight to the damn place.
Yeah.
But they got a golf course and a train track to separate it. But growing up watching your dad, how cool was that? Because you never got to race with your dad, did you?
I never raced against him head to head.
Yeah.
He told me the day I started racing, he didn't want to race anymore. So and it was kind of cool when you interviewed Chris. He said the same thing with Ben. Well, I guess it's time for me to quit. Ben's racing now. I kind of done the same thing with Alex, but I still felt like I had some life left in me, but I didn't want to race against Alex. We did one time. We raced against each other one time. And that was pretty cool, and I always thought, man, I wanted to race against my dad so bad. All those years I kept trying to get him, get in somebody's car, let's race together. But he just never would do it. He's like, I'm done. I'm going to watch you. And I never understood that all those years until my son started racing. And people are like, man, you're still doing good. Why would you want to quit? Like, the fact is, I would rather watch him run dead last than me win a race. And if we were racing together, I wouldn't pay attention to what I'm doing because I'm looking over my shoulder or out in front of him, wherever he's at, seeing what he's doing. Yep. So we kind of got away from that, and I didn't want to do that. But Dad was always kind of a mid-pack, slow heat kind of guy, but he was still my hero. I mean, I didn't care where he finished. I was always watching his car every lap of every race. And he finally got a good opportunity to drive for Ozzy over Gold Star. And then that was, he had a pretty good year that year. And then he built a new car for Ozzy. And then they had a falling out. And that's actually the car that Rance Harmon drove for Ozzy and won the 3-hour. Yep. Dad built that car.
Well, see, that's funny. It took so long to drive for Ozzy because if you got a good baseball arm, you could almost hit the shot from here. Yeah. So he did not go down that way at all.
Yeah. Well, we were Holland Park kids then, so we was on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, that's like my neighborhood. It's gone. Yeah. That's You ever just drive through the neighborhood and just be like, damn?
It's my house that I grew up in is still there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The other side of the railroad tracks is gone.
Yeah.
But I literally, John McLaren shop's kind of over in that area. So every time I go to John's, I got to get on the Waterson Expressway right by there. So instead of getting on the Waterson, I'll go under the Waterson and cruise through there. And I just kind of creep through about 15, 20 mile an hour and just looking around like, man, I remember playing figure eight around the sewer caps on bicycles. And
yeah, that's every time I drive down Preston Highway, like if I'm going down Preston, I'm hanging right there. I'm like, I'm pissed that the neighborhood's tore down, but more than that, I'm pissed we didn't have that bridge when I lived in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because man, getting to the racetrack would have been a whole lot easier.
Right.
So, close to 200 feature wins. Is there one of them that sticks out to you where you're just like, man, that was cool?
My biggest win would be in the Outlawed Auburndale, 10,000 to win. That's probably my biggest win. My favorite win would probably, it's tight between two. Both the weekends that my mom and my dad died, and I told you guys before the podcast, the only 2 trophies in my house are those 2 trophies.
Yeah.
So I assume they'll mean a little bit to me.
Yeah. But you still got the trophies.
I still have the trophies. And a funny story about that, my mom died first. I believe it was Danny Smith that was dominating, and Big Todd's the nanner that they had. And they kicked our butt all year long up there at the Speedrome. And my mom was to be buried on Sunday, or the funeral was going to be on Sunday. She was cremated. And they were like, before my mom died, she said, if it lays out on a race day, change it. I don't want you to miss racing. Like, okay, whatever. You know how it is. We're still going to do what we need to do. Well, it happened. And then we had to delay it another day. So I went up there and raced, and the whole day it wasn't real good. Danny Smith's kicking our butts, 100-lap race. And it was like my mom come down and knocked Danny Smith out of the racetrack. Just clipped him in the intersection and opened the Red Seas, and boom, I take the lead and I won the race. And then the same thing happened with my dad. The funny story behind Chris was probably one of my biggest rivals, him or Raymond. And I think it was the last championship I won at Sportsdrome. My dad passes away. The funeral is on Sunday. We race Saturday. No big deal. Guess what? Rain's out Saturday. Now we race Sunday. Chris is leading the points. I'm second in points. And Mike Gibson's calling me. Man, you got to get here. We got rain coming. You got to get here if you can. I'm like, just go. Go without me. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So my sister comes to me and said, look, everybody's here that's coming. Let's just move everything up an hour and get you to the racetrack. I'm like, whatever, it's okay. I'm all right. She's like, no, that's what we're going to do. So they took the race car to the racetrack, and Beaner went to the funeral home with me, and I got my driving suit in the car. And Chris Harmon went to every race car driver at the racetrack. I get goosebumps talking about it. And he told every driver, we are not going on this race. Oh, there you go. We're not going to that racetrack. We're not going out there until Artie gets here. We'll park him. We ain't going out there. And every single race car driver agreed to him, we are not going on that racetrack till Artie gets here. So Mike's calling me. He's crying. Man, these guys ain't going on the track. You got to get here. You got to get here. I'm like, I'll do everything I can. We moved it up an hour. We're on our way. I said, I'll call you when we leave. I'm changing clothes in Beaner's truck. I get there. They already got the car on the racetrack, lined up on the grid. Beaner drives me all the way out onto the track. I jump in the car and go take off. Me and Chris on the front row. Chris leads the whole race, and I just can't get to him. I just can't get there. And I think I want to say about 95 laps in, I joke and say my dad reached down and yanked the wheel out of Chris's hand. Chris is the smoothest race car driver I have ever witnessed. He does not make many mistakes.
Right.
And he's going through the right-hand corner, and I'm right behind him, and he makes a left-hand turn like he's going through up in the grandstands in the pits. I'm like, what? Oh, thank you very much. Passed him. But I couldn't hardly keep up with him. I thought, well, he just made a mistake and he'll get me back. And I went on to win the race, and then I done the biggest burnout I've ever done, nosed up to the stands, and everybody come out. And I mean, that was probably my most special win right there. That was everybody come out on the track, and we had a big old celebration.
Well, that's the ones that mean the most.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I won some pretty big races, but like. The one that meant the most to me, I didn't even know it at the time. It was because Louisville was closing down. I grew up there every week. I even swept the damn racetrack one night. I went over there like on a Wednesday. I rode my bike. This is like the first year they was open, so I was still young.
Yeah.
I rode my bike to the racetrack, and the damn gate's open. So I go in there. And,
I'm gonna make a lap on my bike.
Yeah, oh yeah. So coolest thing. I go in. Andy Vertrees is riding around on the golf cart that he has. He says, "What the hell are you doing here?" I was like, "I'll be honest, I don't know." I was like, "I'm just coming to the racetrack. That's what I wanted to do." He goes, "Well, hop on." So we pull out on the track, and he gets over. So here, you drive. So my first lap around Louisville, I was probably. It was the first year Louisville was open. Yeah. So I'm probably 10 years old. I'm 2 miles from the house. My dad don't know where the hell I'm at.
Yeah.
So I'd make a lap around in the golf cart, and he goes, "You want to help me out?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, do I want to?" "Yes, I want to help you out." "But what am I going to do?" He gets me a push broom and all the little pea gravels and shit that's thrown on the track. Sweep the intersection for me. He takes off, and I'm out there for, it seems like 4 days. Yeah. I don't know how long it was. Yeah. But yeah, so that was, when Louisville closed down, I think the race paid $100.
Yeah.
It was my least payment that I ever got, but it was the one that meant the most, and I didn't know it at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how it works out. I'm sitting here in the shop, and I'm looking at all your race cars, and the first one I noticed is the black and yellow one that the one over in the car show that me and you painted our car the exact same way the same year. So
teammates.
Yeah, well,
I got without opening up a surprise to a lot of people. I got a Facebook message last night, and someone's redoing that car this year for me.
Oh, are they?
On one of the Fords.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
He asked me if I'd help, and most everyone knows me from Louisville Speedway. Most of my cars had flames on them.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I don't know how we can do these flames." I said, "You paint the yellow and the black on it, and I can lay the flames out." He's like, "You can lay the flames out." I grabbed a piece of paper and I took a Sharpie and I drew some flames. I said, "I can lay the flames out.
Yeah.
If you can paint them, I can lay them out." I said, "Get your pinstripe and tape out. We'll make it happen." So he said, "Okay, we're doing it."
Well, the funny thing about that car is, like, when we interviewed Rick Irwin, that's my Impala like that, but it had a Monte Carlo nose on it. I won 54 features that year, but when I drop it off to Irwin, and I tell him, he goes, "Oh my, what?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "This damn thing looks like Artie's car." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." He goes, no, I'm dead serious. Like, did you pass him?
Yeah.
I'm like, no. He goes, it's like the same damn thing. And I was telling myself, I want the Billy Moyer numbers on it. And Rick just got his vinyl machine. And when I come to pick it up, he goes, it ain't no Billy Moyer numbers. And I said, it's all right. He goes, well, I'm just going to be honest with you. I used what I had left. So I had green chrome numbers on my car, just like where yours were blue, mine were green chrome. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
My wife hated those blue numbers.
did she?
Yes, hated them.
Why?
Still today. She's like, that's the ugliest number you ever had.
Really? Well, see, you must have really liked it though, because you had the Monte Carlo at the Drome. Well, was it the Monte Carlo? It had a Monte Carlo body on it, didn't it? Or just Monte Carlo nose?
It was actually a Cutlass with
Okay.
a Monte
Yeah.
Carlo nose.
All right.
You know,
That's the one you won the Red, White, Blue series in, wasn't it?
funny story on that.
I got a funny story about that
We-
too, but
We put that car together, just got it all painted up, and I had two of them look just alike. I had an Impala that was painted just like it. Funny backstory on that, I let Jeff Roberts drive that car one night, and he hit me head on in the intersection. Both our cars painted just alike this. But we're going to the Red, White, and Blue series in that car. Brand new, slick, looking good, and they run 4 Sundays in a row. Dennis Knoll never come up there watching the races. Well, I come back that last Sunday. I'm like, yeah, we won the championship, boss man. He's like, good. You know, and he never come to the shop, seen the car or nothing. It was always at my house at that point. And so opening night, we show up at Sportsdrome, and this thing looks like it's ran 2 seasons. It's done got an aluminum Camaro bumper on the front of it. The nose is off of it. It is beat to crap. He walks in the pits, and he comes up to me, and he was, most people know Dennis is a man of few words. He says, we're not running the Red, White, and Blue series next year. Just like that. I'm like, yes, sir.
yeah, okay, we're done. Yeah.
So then I talked him into buying a second car so I could do it.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about that was, so Speedrome ran 4 Sundays, and I think they actually started the first weekend of February. Yeah,
Somewhere.
Yeah, because or it was like March 1st.
Yeah.
It had to end before our season started.
Yeah. So so I went to Anderson Speedway. Had it was like a tour type mod. They were trying to run like a NASCAR tour type modified.
Right, yeah.
From the East Coast. So I went to Anderson on a Sunday, and the race got done early, and I'm coming back, and I'm like, I'm gonna stop by the Speedrome. I know they're running. And so I get over there. And Artie and Rodney Sizemore, it might be the night you tore this thing all to shit, but Artie and Rodney Sizemore, because Rodney Sizemore had a car that they called it Monte Carlo, but it was a stock clip late model. They just hung the body on it.
Yeah.
It's like coilovers
That
on the
was a
back.
car that killed that division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get there, and that's when what's his name had the track, the one that barred me out for life.
Cohen, Joel Cohen.
Joe, yeah. So I walk in, and the race is about halfway done, and evidently he's watching the parking lot because he's losing so much money because there's like 9 people in the stands.
Yeah.
So he notices that I don't pay. So he's down there, and he's like ripping my ass. I'm like, so I'm pulling I got the armband on, man. He's like, yeah, that's not an armband.
Yeah. So, Anderson.
But Artie and Sizemore, I mean, they're like beating the shit out of each other. I'm thinking, that's a brand new race car. What is he doing?
Yeah.
And fenders are all peeled back, and I think Sizemore won that day. But yeah, it was funny. I'm like, it's funny you said Dennis was like, we're not running that no more. I'm thinking, that's dumb as hell. Yeah, that thing got a slick paint job on it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned Dennis because you got to drive for many car owners, but Dennis took pride in his race cars.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't matter if it was the bomber.
I thought that picture of him, it's hidden behind the car show picture.
okay.
Where I'm like,
Yeah.
I got one of his cars hanging up over there, but it's laying in behind there.
It didn't matter if it was the Dial 1 oval bombers. I mean, his stuff was slick.
Yeah.
But one thing about Dennis that I appreciate, I know a lot of people, Artie probably caught a bunch of slack for this because, Artie still takes pride in his cars to this day. And, I was one of those guys that, I wouldn't race that night if I would run old tires if I didn't have matching wheels because I really didn't give a shit that much.
Right.
I'm starting 20th anyways. Like let's put on the chrome wheels because they look better. Yeah. I'm not gonna run one chrome, one black.
I get on Alex all the time. I'm like, we cannot go to the racetrack with dirty wheels.
Yeah.
And he'd wipe the front of them. I'm like, no, you got to wipe the back of them too.
Yeah.
So just to go to practice the other day, he's like, You'll be happy I cleaned the wheels front and back.
Yeah.
That's funny. But that's the way I was. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm not doing it. My dad.
Yeah.
So my dad, he started carrying spray paint with him. Like if I go to put a wheel on, he's like, yeah, that's what he said. I'm painting them all. So he called them Go Fast wheels. Yeah. Like if they were silver wheels, he just paints the center black. He's like, these are your Go Fast wheels.
Yeah.
But Dennis, he was one of those guys that started getting real sponsors in the figure eight division. Commonwealth Dodge.
Absolutely.
So what did it mean to drive for for a car like that?
I have driven for someone else every year that I have driven except for one season. And it wasn't even season. I was going to quit racing, and I had driven Alan Williams' car to finish the season out on the oval. And I bought that car. Well, over the winter, I was done. Like, I'm done. I'm going to quit racing.
We're going to talk about the flip here in a minute, too. Then.
That's the car.
Yeah.
So my wife says, you're driving me nuts. Go buy a race car. I'm like, well, I'm paying for it out of my pocket. I can't afford to run figure eight, new tires every week. I can afford an oval car. We can get 2 or 3 races out of those, and that's what we'll do. So I went and bought Alan's car, and I started running that year. And then Jeff Roberts come to me and said, hey, I want you to drive one of my cars. So then I run about half a season. I quit leading the points and started driving from Jeff Roberts in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
But with Dennis, I mean, people were always, you guys spend so much money racing, and Dennis is going broke spending money. I'm like, Dennis is making money racing. I had, every year that we run Louisville Speedway, I had at least 3 $10,000 sponsors on my car. And it paid $600 to win, and we would win $20,000 to $30,000 a year in purse money, plus the $30,000 plus all the other sponsor money, and then plus what we were winning at Sportsdrome and Whitesville and everything else. I'm like, Dennis had to spend some of that money, so we bought other cars and a bunch of chrome wheels and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it didn't cost him as much money as you think, because we got big sponsors back then. And it's hard to get a $5,000 sponsor now, let alone 3 $10,000 sponsors.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
But everybody's always said, how do you drive for someone else? And I drove it just like I would drive for myself. I didn't care. I'm not going to say I didn't care. I drove the car. If you made me mad and you've known me enough, that I will go junk your stuff. No. And then I go in the office Monday morning to Dennis, and he's like, what was that all about? And I tell him, like, okay. I had 2 instances with Dennis that I was uncomfortable in. One, Kenny Newcomb in the rookie figure eight year. Kenny Newcomb took me out like 3 races in a row. And Dennis walked up to me in the lineup, going out on the racetrack, and he reaches in and shook my hand and handed me $500. And he said, the 5 car does not finish tonight. And I'm like, oh, he has never told me how to drive my car, nothing. It's my car, do what I want to do with it. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't know what to do here. I don't mind crashing, but I don't want to know that I have to go crash somebody, and I'm not mad. Luckily, Newcomb got spun right 1 car in front of me. I passed him, didn't have to race him. And then I come in, I still won the race, and we were all happy and cheering, and Dennis comes up hugging me. And while he's hugging me, I said, this will probably be the last time I drive for you. He's like, what's that all about? I said, Dennis, I did not like you put me on that spot tonight. I do not want to race that way. If I want to tear somebody up, leave it to me.
Yeah, because I've got plenty of opportunities.
I'll know when I've had enough, and it'll happen. He's like, you're right. I should not have done that, and it won't happen again. And then people still joke about this today. I won a big race at Sportsdrome, and I was on the backstretch doing donuts. And I was in the asphalt, in the grass, asphalt in the grass, asphalt in the grass. Well, guess what? Next week we come back and lead the feature, broken axle. Dennis walks up to me. He says, if you don't do them burnouts, you don't break no axle. I said, I don't know. I was being careful in the grass. He said, no more burnouts. Just like that. I'm like, okay. We're winning a lot. And I like to celebrate. And he's like, no more burnouts. And that was the only 2 times that he ever put me in a position where I didn't like it. Other than that, I've done what I wanted to do and didn't have to answer. And I've done that same thing for anybody else I drove for. They give me that same respect. I didn't have to race scared or, they're going to fire me or not going to. And I'm like, eh. And then as I got older, then I was like, I don't care if you fire me. I've been around long enough. I'm going to do things my way. Yeah. Eric Hester, funny story with him when he come around. Me and G-Man got into it at the racetrack. And he goes over and he's spitting in G-Man's face, screaming and hollering and chest butting him and everything. He's ready to fight. And it was my fault. And then I hear Eric's down there trying to fight G-Man and his whole crew. None of my guys were down there. So he comes back down there, and I'm in his ass like a 2-year-old kid. I'm scalding him. I'm like, when he walks away, he's mad and don't know what to think. And Kelly's like, you probably shouldn't talk to a guy that pays your bills like that. I'm like, he's not going to go down and do that against something that I've done. It was my fault.
Yeah.
I deserved what G-Man done to me, and me and him need to take care of that, not him. So once it all got calmed down, he come back down again. I said, look, what you don't understand, he come from drag racing.
Yeah.
I said, what you don't understand about this, that guy might crash me this week. Next week, he might be in the pits helping me put my car back together.
Yeah.
And we're just like dysfunctional brothers here.
Yeah.
So just have my back and be ready when it happens, but just wait till the driver makes that decision. He's like, okay. So ever since then, Eric was like, I got your back, dog, whatever you need.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the funny thing about that is when you said fighting and it was your fault, that's when my dad told me he realized that I grew up racing.
Yeah.
Because I came in one night and my dad tested me. Troy Courtney.
Oh,
That's who it
yeah.
was. So he's racing this week. So we're at the drome and I stick my nose in there and he's leading and I'm down in the bumps. And so I get back out of it and I roll up to the outside of him and I just clear him and I just slam the door on him. He hits me, dumps me, and he goes on and wins. And I come in and my dad goes, "That's bullshit, wasn't it?" I was like, nah, I kind of spun myself out. He's like, I'm glad you said that. I was going to let you have it. Yeah, he was like,
Set you up, yeah.
Because my dad never, he just laughed about anything. It didn't matter what it was.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I come in, I'm like, something's up with this. Hold on a second. I damn near ran him into the U-turn. Yeah. So,
back to that Dennis Knoll thing, most people don't realize that's why I'm 38. Was because Dennis was 38.
well, Dennis was 38.
Yeah, well, in the beginning.
Yeah, because it was oval 38
Right.
or X 38 for
Yeah.
figure eight. That's how that's how you lettered them out.
That's how they
I
was back
wanted to
then.
be 10 all those years because of my dad, but a guy named Tommy Young was number 10 at Louisville Speedway all those years, and I never seen him make one lap. But he bought number 10 every year. And then when this deal come out, my dad says, hey, you need to go talk to Dennis Knoll. I'm like, why? I hadn't hardly won nothing but B and C features. We were junkyard stuff and couldn't hardly be competitive. He said, I heard he wants you to drive for him. I said, if he wants me to drive for him, he'll call me. He's like, you need to go talk to him. So me and BJ Strickland were good buddies, and BJ Strickland was driving for him. BJ says, hey, man, I want you to come over and set my front end on my car. I'm like, okay. So I go to Dennis's shop, set his front end for him, send him on his way. It says Wednesday night. We're racing Friday. And there sits a race car in the back corner under a car cover. Dennis, of all nights, walks in the shop this night, and he never come in the shop. And I said, hey, what's the story on this old car back here? He said, Danny Blackwell is going to drive it and then decides he don't want to race this year. So what's it need to race? He said, put a number on it and a carburetor. I said, well, I've got a carburetor, and I know a guy's got paintbrushes. At the time, I was doing a little bit of lettering myself. I said, let's go race this thing Friday and go kick their ass. He just laughed, didn't say nothing. But later on that night, he calls me. He said, hey, I got to talk to you about what you was asking about. He said, I didn't want to say nothing then, but I wanted to talk to BJ and get his opinion. And he thinks you'd be a good asset to us. So I'd like for you to drive the car. I'm like, okay, cool. You want me to come over and throw a number on it and go racing? He said, no. We got to take this thing to Rick Irwin. Wednesday night. This is Wednesday night at like 11 o'clock. He said, we got to take this thing to Rick Irwin. Rick's going to put stars and stripes on it and paint the top of the hood blue. It was all just like a burgundy color. And then we'll have him letter it. And I'll just have Rick drop it off at the track Friday, and you just bring your trailer, take it home. I'm like, I'm not even going to take the toe in or nothing on it. He's like, no, it's ready to go racing.
Yeah.
So
Well, if it was good enough for Blackburn, it's good enough for you.
Oh, yeah.
so we did. We go to get all this happen, and lo and behold, it wasn't going to be done. It was painted and not lettered, rained out. So we had a whole nother week to get it done, and we did. And we went over and won opening night. And then I blew 3 transmissions and 4 motors in the next 7 races driving for Dennis.
He said, and Dennis is thinking, I don't know about this guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, well, Randy Mack, been building my motors since then, 1996 when I started driving for Dennis. Randy Mack comes up to me and he says, hey, boy, you ever read them gauges? I'm like, no.
What
And
gauges?
he's like, what do you mean? You don't read the gauges? I said, I don't read them. I said, I start the car up. If it's got oil pressure, it's good to go. We run old junkyard motors, and that's when it blows up, we put another one in it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, these are freaking race motors, and we don't do that. And he hands me a yellow light about 6-inch diameter. He says, you're an electrician. I want this light on the dash so me and everybody in the stands can see this. And if that yellow light comes on, I was overheating the motors.
Yeah.
He said, if that yellow light comes on from overheating and you ain't winning the race and you don't pull in, I'll see to it you never drive for Dennis Knoll again. So, because this motor I put in was Randy's personal motor. I run it about 5 races and I burn it up too.
I already unplugged the light. You took the bulb out.
I didn't get fired. No, one thing we learned is it had a slow water leak, so the temperature light didn't come on. We didn't have any water pressure for the light to come on.
Yeah.
The water pump starts seeping and it burned up. And he's like, I'm gonna let you slide on that one. So I've been with Randy ever since then.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's kind of like something. My dad put a brake light on because I come in and told him, I said, man, this damn thing loses brakes after about 15 laps. He's like, take your foot off of them. I'm like, Dad, I think I know if my foot's on the damn brake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's resting.
He's like, well, the damn things are glowing red.
Yeah.
He put a light on the dash, and like I find myself looking at the light, hit people in the ass. I'm like, damn, my foot's on the brake.
Mine never worked until they were going red. So change rotors every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you took off a year and you decided you're going to go run oval, and at this time I'm racing all over the country. So I'm hardly ever at the Sportsdrome anymore. And the one night I do go, my dad was racing still a little bit then. He just started racing again. So I go to the Drome and I get there like at the start of the feature. This is no joke. So I get me a Bloomer's chili dog, and everybody sits over on the front. I'm thinking, I just want to come in, watch the features. I think I got ringed out at Brownstown, honestly.
Yeah.
So I come in. I haven't even got a bite of the chili dog yet. Artie hits the wall, gets up on the driver's side, doesn't turn all the way over, but kind of slides around.
It tore my name off the top of the car. That's how far over it went, but it did not go completely over. It come back on the 4-wheel.
Yeah.
But it ripped the radiator hose off in the wreck. It blows water all over me as I'm walking to the damn to sit down. So I just threw the damn the hot dog away. It had antifreeze all over it. I walked back and I said, "What the hell was you doing? You just drove up on the damn wall." He's like, "No, I didn't." I'm like, "The hell you didn't? You just drove up on the wall."
Well, the thing most people don't know about figure 8 racers, we don't know where the wall is.
Yeah.
I mean, if all you do is run figure 8, you're never near the wall.
Yeah.
So the hardest thing for a figure 8 racer to adapt to is where that right side is and where the wall. If it's figure 8 and you're on my right side, who cares if we touch?
Yeah.
There he is. No big deal. But if you hit that wall, up the wall you go.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way he just drove up on the damn wall. Like it wasn't even by a car.
Yeah.
He was by himself.
Yeah, you can Google it. I think it's still on YouTube.
Oh, is it?
It'll show it. Yeah, it still pops up there.
You might see me walking down right there in front of it because it happened right past the opening in the backstretch. I can tell you exactly where it happened because it blew water and antifreeze all over me. I'm like, Jesus
Don't
Christ.
tell him I was running antifreeze.
Wait, no.
Yeah.
I could tell you was running antifreeze.
Yeah. Mr. Mack told him he had to run antifreeze in it.
Well, because he kept burning the motors.
Yeah, exactly. He learned a lesson.
Anything I can do to cool them down.
Yeah, he didn't have that light no more.
See, he learns.
So when you moved on to the outlaw figure 8 racing, how tough was that? Because you were a guy, in my opinion. If you disagree with this, that's fine. But everybody in our area that moved on and tried to run the outlaw cars, I think you, Jeff Roberts, Tony Anderson, I think you guys struggled the most. I don't know what it was, but I think you guys struggled the most. And guys like Chris Harmon and Mark Harmon, they adapted quicker. I don't know why it was, but it took you a while to get the feel for that car.
I have an opinion of why I done what I done. Because at the time I was only running part-time. So I didn't want to have a sponsor or owner spend $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 on a figure 8 car to run 5 or 6 times. So we would buy less equipment and think, I know I can drive as good as those guys. I could never figure out how to set them up. So Eric Hester was my savior in that aspect. He come to me 2 years in a row. He's like, what's it going to take to make the next level? I said, money. Simple as that. He's like, well, let's do it. I'm like, I do not want to spend that kind of money to try to go from 8th place to 3rd or 5th. I can't justify it. He's like, let's do it. So 2 years later, I finally said, okay, let's do it. So we went and bought a T8. Had Bruce build us a T8, and we were fairly good with that. We were running, I think that whole season, the first year we done, we run in top 5 every single race that we ran that year, and we ran about 12 races, I think, that year. And the years prior to that, we were just hodgepodge in an old car and trying to put stuff on it that we thought might work. Me and Tim Snalter built our own car one year right here in the shop and never could get it. And I've always said that Chris, right out of the gate, he done what we should have done. He went straight to, he run with Robert Earl for a year or so, do very good in those, but immediately went to Bruce Tunney and spent the money and had Bruce in his corner, teaching him how to do it. Then he went on, had Moose helping him, and the same thing that Mark did. Mark had R.J. Norton and all them guys, been running for years, immediately put him in a decent car, and Mark's always one of the best drivers, in my opinion. Mark's probably one of the top 5 drivers in this area, and I think he quit way too soon. But
or if he could have been the smart one, unlike us. he quit just in time.
Yeah. So I feel like, and to prove my point to myself, Kevin Garris comes to me one day and he said, "Hey man, I want you to drive one of my house cars." And at the time, Audie Moose was not a big fan of mine. And
there's a common theme with this too. You know, Artie's got a lot of not big fans.
Yeah. So I tell Kevin, I said, "Look, I would love to drive one of your cars." I said, "But Audie's not a fan of mine. What better chance for him to put me in your car and set me up for failure and then go, see, I told you guys I can't drive." And I just can't do that. I would rather struggle where I'm at. I can't do this, So he said, well, I'll tell you what, Audie is paid to make my cars fast. If I find out he does not set that car up on point for you to go win races in it, because if you win a race, you've been running 8th place everywhere you go. If you get in one of my cars and you win on Saturday, I'll sell cars on Monday. She said, so he better have my shit right or he'll be fired. Yeah. I'm like, okay, we'll try it.
Yeah, I'm going to run it.
So I said, what do I need to do? He said, just show up. So we get there, and I tell Moose straight up, I said, hey, I ride the bottom. I don't run that high line, the Tunney line we call it. You tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'm going to go out and do my thing. And when I come in, you tell me what I need to change. So we go out, and we're P2. Come right in, and he's like, look good to me. I don't think you need to change nothing. Put some rubber on it. Let's go racing. I'm like, okay. I don't need to do nothing different. He said, no, you're doing fine. He said, you're on tires that Connor, John Connor, just run the 1 hour in. He said, so it's, got over 200 laps on your tires and you're P2.
Yeah.
So we'll put the stickers on it for the next practice. He said, and this is where I'm going to demand out of you to listen what I tell you to do. He said, you tell me, I'm good. He said, I'm going to put your 4 tires on. I want you to go give me 80%, 4 laps. Do not spin my tires. And then when you come back in, we're going to flip them front to rear. Okay, cool. So we go out. Before that, I'm questioning. He's like, what do you think the car needs? I said, if you want to be P1, give me a little more side bite. I can't get through the corners as hard as I like to. He's like, you're on 200 lap something tires, you'll be fine. So we put the stickers on. We go out there. We're P1. Everybody stickered up. He said, what do you think now? I said, same thing. I could use a little more side bite. He said, all you damn drivers are the same. Like, what do you mean? He said, you, Eddie Van Meter, John Connor, Jesse Tunney, and Austin Tunney, every one of you say this car needs side bite. I said, well, I'm just a nobody, but them 5 there have won all the races everywhere. Yeah. If you got them guys telling you the same thing, I would probably work on my chassis a little bit. No disrespect, but, he's like, well, you all don't understand. If I give you the side bite, you're going to lose drive off. I said, can you please just give me some of it? I don't care about getting off the corner. If I can get through the corner and underneath of them, then, I'll be better. So we end up waxing their ass in that race and won. So I felt good to myself. I'm like, you know what? I can drive a race car when it's set up by someone like Audie Moose. And I never had, all the years I've raced, I've never had a Huey Darnell with the street stock cars. I never had Big Todd and those Sportsdrome days or in the Outlaws, Bruce Tunney's and Audie Moose. I didn't have those guys. We done it here. I asked a bunch of questions from a bunch of people, but we done most of our racing out of me making my choices, being they were mostly wrong. It sounds like until I got with them guys. Yeah, until then, when I get to drive for somebody like Audie Moose, it's like, man, that's what I'm missing. I just don't know how to set them cars up.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
Well, that's because you never raced them.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everything I learned in my figure 8 cars and street stock is the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had so many bad habits.
Well,
Go from a street stock oval car to a dirt late model.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
well, that's what I was about to say. Artie is one of those guys that I'll say this. He got out and raced. And this is what I always respected about Artie. He did not care to go race.
Yeah.
When the figure 8 season was over, all right, piss on it. We're going to change everything around. We're going to go run the Halloween 200 with this figure 8 car.
Right.
Because I was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Hell, I hit him in the driver's door one day. I thought I killed him.
Yeah.
He was spinning down the track.
Yeah.
Artie went off in the corner and turned one. He had a hell of a wreck. Then I'm thinking, God, that's going to hurt. And then I never lifted because they were all crashing, sliding down the track.
He'll be gone when I get there.
Yeah. He was waiting on me. We eye to eye, smoked him.
Yeah.
I went on one racing trip with Artie, and I worked all night.
Yeah.
You did. Yeah. We left, I can't remember exactly how it was. We raced Louisville Friday, Sportsdrome Saturday, Whitesville Sunday, and Beach Bend Monday, or something like that. No, I don't remember how it went. But anyway, we went to IRP because I took my figure 8 car and run the IRP race. I had just lost oil pressure when they black flagged the race. So I come home, Randy told me what we done. I had a long stroke motor and some stuff off the oil pan gasket got that in there. He goes to Whitesville with me, and I'm like, I've never taken an oil pan off at the racetrack. He said, jack it up, I'll help you.
Yeah.
So sure enough, we're at Whitesville. We take the oil pan off of it, put it all back together.
Off.
Yeah, pickup fell off of it.
Yeah.
And we thought that was the problem. So we just put it back together. Well, then 20 laps in, it starts doing the same thing, losing oil pressure.
Yeah.
I call Randy when I'm on my way home. He's like, you didn't take that gasket. You got to cut that gasket out. The rod's hit, and it drops that cork down in there, and it's probably on the bottom of your pickup. So yeah, he damn near pulled the motor out for me at Whitesville so we can run a race.
Yeah, that's but that's what I did respect about Artie, because he would just go race. It didn't matter where it was. He went to Anderson. I seen him one week, and he said, I'm going to go to Anderson and run a 4th of July race. And I told him, I said, Artie, go ahead and take your window flaps and stuff out. I'm not doing that. That big ass windshield opening. I said, okay, I'm just telling you, I've been there. And he comes to the drone, and it looks like he used a hacksaw. And I said, what the hell did you do? He said, well, we didn't have what we needed to take it out, and I hacked on it. I said, I tried to tell you before you went.
They weren't just pop riveted in. Those were molded in and body filler to look good.
Yeah. I said, I tried to tell you before you go, you ain't going to be able to see.
Yeah, you could not. When you got through the middle of the corner, you try to look across the track and see, you're looking out the top of your roof. I'm like, gosh, this is a bad idea.
Well, funny thing about Anderson, the year before you guys went up for that 4th of July deal, I went up the year before to run because they had a 100-lap sportsman race with the figure 8 cars. We had Outlaw figure 8s and 100-lap sportsman. Well, I get up there and we go through tech, and you can't have fixed bearing shocks. Can't have fuel line come through the car. The dude's like drilling me. It's like 10 things you got to change. I said, you guys said you're running Winchester rules. So I ran Winchester last week.
Yeah.
He's like, nope, can't have this, can't have this. I said, okay, what can I run? He goes, you can run the figure 8 race. So I'm like, okay. So I go down and tell my dad, I said, we need to find somebody who's got a left front A-frame. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm going to take the left front apart and put a stiffer spring in it. I said, but I got this one cut up so bad, I'm going to need at least a stock A-frame to put on the left front. Right. I was like, I got to run the 8. My dad's like, you got to run the 8? He's like, you can't run with those guys. I said, it's paying $200 to start. I'm going to at least make a lap.
Yeah.
So we go out there. So I get one practice session because they're practicing all day. And because pavement racing guys, you practice from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
And we rent the track the day before.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to you about that too. Like, this show may go on all night. I've never known guys make 5,000 laps and run 3 features all year.
Yeah.
Why the hell you guys practice so much at Salem?
Oh, gosh.
You must have a damn good motor and a damn good rear end.
I was talking to Kurt before you got here, and I told him, I said, as a figure 8 racer, the ultimate win is the 3 hour. And every year, that's what you're just like, man, I really want to win that 3 hour. And then when I started to quit, I realized it's not going to happen. I won in theory one year. They black flagged me, penalized me a lap. I still finished second, and is what they kind of done it to me and Chris and Jeff.
I was going to say, if you're from this side of the river, there's a lot of in theories.
Yeah.
I joke with Danny Smith. I say, you know why you won the 3 hour? I said, because they couldn't give it to the fourth place car. I said, because you were third on the track. Right. They couldn't give it to the guy behind you.
But we, up there at Salem, we've been running there 4 years now, and everywhere Alex has ran, we've won. I went to Anderson, first time we ran there, we won. It's like, and he's like, this track wasn't very fun. I'm like, because you won, you made it look easy. And we're up Salem scratching our head, and I'm telling you, it is the toughest thing I've ever done in racing is to try to win a race up there. I've been against I think the Outlaw Figure 8 guys are the best racers in the country. I would put them up against anybody, anywhere, give them a little bit of time, and they'll be fast. But you can always start up front, have cautions go your way. You can always, laps fall in the right way, somebody fall out, and you can backdoor into a win. I've done it a bunch. You can't do that at Salem. I have seen in 4 years up there, they do an invert of a 6, and it's actually only a 4, 5, or 6. In 2 years, or in 4 years, I've only seen 2 guys win a race outside of the invert. If you're not in that invert, you're not going to win a race up there.
Yeah.
So you have to have your stuff together and be on top of it. And we just can't seem to get over that hump. And the first 3 years, I would get in the car and go, I love Salem. It gives me the same thrills figure 8. And I would get the car going, and it's fast. And it's, in my opinion, a rocket ship. I'm like, let me drive this thing Saturday night. And Alex gets in and go, I hate it. I don't know how you drive it. So then everybody's like, you got to stop getting in the car. I'm like, but he doesn't know what he's looking for up there. I got to get the car good so he can be competitive. Well, then I finally realized he doesn't like what I like.
Right.
I've got to just sit back and go, you know what? Whatever you want, let's try it. So that's what I started doing last year. And we got more consistent. And now we're running 5th to 8th most races up there. So I bought the Lee Spring car, and everybody knows that's a big ordeal. Trying to make the car more stable. We've been up testing already twice this year. I think we've got a better piece because the Lee Springs have made it a little bit more stable. But we've been over to Kimmel's and spent a lot of money trying to get them to do some geometry work on the front end. I will spend everything I got until we're broke to try to make my son be faster up there. And it's more important to me to win a race up there than to win the 3 hour.
Well,
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I'm probably going to piss some people off by saying this because the people that's listening to this are figure 8 guys usually. But guys, the 3 hour is not the end all be all.
Yeah.
It's not even the biggest race that weekend. It's not even in the top 4 biggest races of that weekend.
Yeah.
But if you're a figure 8 guy, that's it.
Yeah, I know that. But where it comes on the totem pole or chopping block, however you want to put it, I get the draw. I get I grew up going up there watching. I get that. But when you branch out and see other things, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
It's
The older you get, the less it means.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what I tell people. I said, you're still basically running against the same 30 people.
Yeah.
Same 30 people you're in against all year.
Yeah.
You're not pulling in and goes, holy shit, this dude's from Canada. Oh, well, Skylar G is from Canada here. Oh, guys, we got guys from all over the country. That's, like what you just described at Salem is what dirt racers do every week. Salem is the closest thing that you guys have to a dirt track. You're going to race against the best competition. The best street stock drivers in the country are all going to come to the Halloween 200. It's the best racers in the country in that division.
Yeah, best equipment.
And you got to run every lap like it's the last lap.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're going to ride, that's not a place for you.
Right.
And as you said, getting the front end geometry right, that's why I was never successful at Salem. Because I ran every lap like it was the last lap.
We had to.
But I was so under budgeted, underpowered, under equipment. I ran good for laps, but I didn't run good for races.
Yeah.
And that's what that's what you guys are. When you said, I got to get the front end geometry, we got to get the car stable. That's just going to come with time. The more laps he makes, the better off he's going to be. Like, we interviewed Chris not too long ago, and one of his biggest things was like he can't help being raced.
Yeah.
He's never drove a dirt car. He ran indoor figure eight racing one time.
People don't understand what it's like to watch your son on the racetrack, and I couldn't imagine the pressure that's under Ben or Alex, Greg Smith, some of the great figure eight drivers in this area that their kids start racing.
Yeah.
And people think they should be great too. And I tell Alex all the time, Greg Smith come to me, he said, just let him race, man. Just let him race. I'm like, I'm trying. I promise you, I want him to be better than he wants to be.
Yeah.
I want to see him win more than he wants to see him win. And I'm not putting the pressure on him. You're putting it on yourself. Just go race. Do your thing. I don't expect you to be great right now. Do I hope you'll be better than me one day? Absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
People come up, like at Salem. Man, Alex is getting better. Alex is getting better. I'm like, no, he's okay. I'm getting better. I'm giving him better race cars. You try going up Salem in a bad race car, you ain't going to do good.
Oh, no, I know. I put
unless you're Chucky Barnes or David Baines and Brian Baer. Those guys that run up there all the time, got a million laps. They can take a car that's not so great and still get a decent finish.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to. If your car's off up there a little bit, you are in trouble.
Yeah, that's that's one thing that. Go ahead.
I was saying, you talk about that, and it's just like at the Drome when me and my dad used to run. A lot of people don't know it, but we didn't have a whole lot of good stuff, but all the good stuff was on my car.
No, the good stuff you had was tire dope.
Yeah.
That was one of my first experiences with tire dope. Was him.
Yeah.
Hold on. If it's Indianapolis guys, listen, tire soak.
Yeah.
Some words you can't
like
use.
Intersection.
Crossover.
I told Artie, I said, you want to be fast? I said, try some of this.
Yeah. Because I hated it. I wanted it outlawed. I'm like, I don't want to mess with it. And I go over there, and he's got an axle shoved in the end of an uncapped bumper.
Yeah.
Tire bolted onto it, and a bucket of stuff down on the ground and rolled it up. Well, while I'm doing this, when I'm at someone else's race shop, I'm looking.
Yeah.
Not only just to see what can make my car better, I like looking at stuff and going, man, that's a good idea. Whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. I look over at one of them two cars. In the left front A-frame, if I'm lying, I'm dying.
We had famous A-frames on the car, didn't we?
Yeah, that's the fourth person that's talked about the A-frame and the boats
It looked like my fingers of half-inch all thread that was laced and welded together to extend his left front A-frame. And I can't remember who was with me at the time.
Yeah.
I looked at that, and under mine and his breath real short, I said, if I had that on, I would get killed at the race. It would fall off in lap one, and I'd climb the fence and get killed with that.
Yeah.
And that's how they race like that and won a bunch of races.
Yeah.
Well, I've told a lot of people because like Kurt and I, like when we started doing the show, we didn't even we didn't have no direction. We just started bullshitting.
Yeah.
And hell, like the first three shows, I didn't even introduce us.
Yeah. Nobody knows who we are.
Yeah,
We still really ain't.
Yeah. I'm like, shit, everybody knows us. But no, I'm like, I didn't even introduce us. I forgot. I was like,
but you don't realize that who else out there is listening.
Yeah.
That like if you add like a lot of your dirt guys, I don't know them.
Right.
And then you put this name on there like this such and such come on this interview today, and I'm like, who the heck is that? So if there's going to be people listening to these podcasts, so it's good to advertise for yourself and let people know who you are.
Well,
because you guys are doing a phenomenal job with it, and that's all that I love it so much because it's basically we're sitting here bench racing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I told this story this week, but it's going to be a few weeks for this going, so we can tell it again. One cool thing about doing this podcast, it's kind of like when we were kids. Were you a big newspaper magazine guy? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we had a guy last week that messaged me. He's from Lincoln, Nebraska. Memorabilia collectors, like 80-year-old gentleman. He somebody retweeted our show, shared it on Facebook, retweeted something, and he's a sprint car guy. Well, he listened to that interview because it was a sprint car interview, and so he followed along, and he goes, I looked at your list and I knew just about everybody. He said, but there was 3 guys I didn't know who they were, so I'm going to listen to them first. He goes, and if I swear this is how it's a small world. He said, every night before I sit down and go to bed, I read an old racing newspaper. So he's read a Mid-America, newspaper from 1996, and either Scott Douglas or Frank Scott wrote an article. Can Raymond Johnson, Tony Anderson catch Chris Harmon in the points? Guess what 3 episodes he listened to? Those 3 guys before he read the paper. And he's like, oh my God, these are the guys that he's interviewing. So I was blown away. Never seen a figure 8 race? He's like, I just read this article, and on the same week that I listened to these exact 3 podcasts, I'm like, holy shit, are you serious?
Yeah,
so it's
cool.
it's crazy how how this ball takes off rolling, and somebody knows somebody or somebody's seen something, and to us, this is what we've always done. Like, a lot of people know this now, but Kurt and I, we were never really friends at the racetrack. I crashed him one night, kind of.
Yeah.
He was racing for the lead, and it was when I first started. I was being lapped for the 9th time, and so I was really going to do him a favor. I pointed
if Kurt was racing at Sportsdrome, he was usually racing for the lead.
Oh, yeah. And it was my first few races. I wasn't really racing for the lead. I was just doing my best to hold on. So I let Flash know. Pointed to the inside. He went to the inside of me. I stuck him in the U-tire. He come out, what the hell? I said, man, I told you where I was going. He's like, that's not how it works. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, you should have let him have the outside.
Yeah.
That's where he's faster.
Yeah.
I have an argument with Ty Romeo all the time, and he's a big Bierman fan.
Yeah.
And he's like, who's the greatest? Who's the greatest? And I said, you can't argue the fact of them Bennett's that would kick everybody's butt. And then it just burns him up, because then I'd get on him about them, and Sadler. I said, all them guys. I said, in my honest opinion, the greatest ever, I feel like, to run Sportsdrome was Alan Williams.
Oh, yeah.
I think Alan Williams was probably the best street stock racer to ever go through there. But man, I tease him all the time about them two, him and his dad. I would watch them clowns go out on practice. You talking about practice?
Yeah.
They practice 30 or 40 laps. Kurt on the outside, him on the inside, and then one of them would check up, drop down, then they'd switch up, and one other one on the inside and on the outside and run for another 30 laps. I'm like, what are they doing? I'm like, they're working the outside, trying to get a groove out there.
It's the Kurt Nemo show. That's what they're doing.
The other one to do that, the best to ever do it was Chuck Winders.
Yeah.
I would watch him in the Sportsman
I seen
over
Chuck
there.
do it a bunch of times.
He would just start riding on the outside, and nobody behind him, no pressure, and he's trying to work on a guy, and he's like, well, I'm not going to get under him. So I start moving up a half groove at a time. He's just starting to work that outside groove. Next thing you know, 10 laps, boom, there he goes outside.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I want to ask you, because you was talking about backdooring your way into a win. I'm not going to tell you who told me this. I'll tell you off air. He didn't really say, hey, I want this to be said. But he said, Artie Ware is the hardest figure 8 driver to pass, but he might be the cleanest at being the most dirtiest. So I take that as a compliment.
I want to know who it is, because I do take it as a compliment. Because when I first started racing, Chris and Raymond were the two.
Yeah.
They had started Raymond probably started in 84 or something like that. I don't know exactly. And then Chris, I think, started at about 87 or 88 maybe.
Yeah.
And I started in 89. I feel like in 96 when I got with Dennis, I was what I consider one of the better guys. And I told Dennis at the time, I said, he's like, what do you think you can do here? And I told him, I said, if I can drive as good as Chris Harmon with a little bit of Raymond Johnson, I could be the greatest driver ever. Because I think Raymond was way too aggressive and won a lot more races than he could have won championships, because he went for the wins. And Chris was the total opposite. Chris would run second. He won championship over at Louisville and beat me in 97. I think it was 97 that he beat me, ironically, by 38 points. I don't think he won a feature that year.
No.
He'll beat you to death. But my last championship I won, the funny one with Chris, it's who I usually ended up battling him or Raymond for the championship, it seemed like. And Tony was a lot at Sportsdrome. And Chris comes up to me. He's like, man, what are you doing? You're driving so aggressive in these heat races. Well, I'd sit back and figure it out. Heat race points are more important than a feature.
Yeah.
I could beat you in a $10 heat race and then ride behind you in the feature and gain 2 points. And if I was lucky enough to gain 3 or 4 spots in a heat race by somebody making a mistake, well, I could kick your butt. And so I told Chris, I said, man, I got a nephew of mine that's wanting one of them heat race trophies so bad, and I promised him I'd win him one this year. Total bullshit story.
Yeah.
But I was racing for points. Season ends, I win the championship. Chris calls me up. He said, "You son of a bitch," or what? Chris don't cuss a whole lot. Whatever he said, he was cussing me somehow.
Yeah.
I'm like, "What? What'd I do to you?" He said, "You got me." I'm like, "What do you mean I got you?" He said, "I went through and I counted the points. I dominated you in the features, but you kicked my ass in the heat race, and it's never going to happen again."
Yeah. That's Chris told me one time. He said, "I think I won Artie a championship once," and I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, Dennis called me. Artie had to go out of town for something. I drove his car, and he clinched the points that night."
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" He's like,
Chris,
"Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did."
Chris has drove for me to help me. Alan Williams, either Alan Williams or Mike Berry was usually my two go-tos on the nights we had to leave and go run a 3-hour. It was a points night.
Yeah.
So then one of them two guys would run my figure 8 car for me. And both of them now are, Alan ended up being a pretty good figure 8 racer until I retired him.
Yeah.
He was leading the race one night and I hit him. And he never come back. He quit.
Yeah, he don't run figure 8 no more.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because we can go on all night, so I can edit out or add on or just be as long. It don't matter.
Yeah.
It's, when it's your show, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
That's one good thing about this. We're not professionals by any means, but we're okay with that.
Yeah.
When you know the boss, you can do what you want.
Yeah, do what the hell we want. All I got to do is make sure this little red button's still on, and we're good.
Yeah.
So why figure 8? Was it because
My dad.
Okay.
Simple as that. I mean, there was never even a choice of what I was going to do. It was straight figure 8. Back to my first figure 8 night, first race at figure 8, my dad had a company truck, take-home truck. I was an apprentice for the same company. His company truck was in the end of the driveway. Bought that 04 from Mike Russ, and Dad said, "We better change oil in this whole thing. No telling what they've done to it." So I run over to the AutoZone, whatever it was, back then. And
it was probably bumper to bumper or Prano.
it was Toohey's Auto Parts usually in our neighborhood, but I had to go on the other side of town. And when I come back across Southern Parkway, I thought I looked both ways, and I shot across the road and got TKO right in the quarter panel, flipped this company truck upside down. He comes down there, the cops come after him and tell him, where we're at and everything. My first night of racing, I got hit in the intersection before I even get to the racetrack.
Well, that it never stopped.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, I never even considered running the oval, except for we go to Anderson and run that enduro, or we go to Salem and run the Halloween race or the 4th of July race. Normally, it was the Halloween race. We would go to.
Artie even ran some dirt enduros.
Oh yeah.
He bought a street stock car and went dirt racing for a little bit. I thought he's finally getting it.
I done.
But he likes to sit too clean.
The ultimate no. When Charlestown opened back up after it went asphalt dirt, whatever, and they put on an enduro up there, and Doug Wicker had an old Dromer, and he's like, "Hey man, you want to drive mine?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll do it." So we go up there, and he's like, I'm asking around, well, what we got to do? And everybody's like, just disconnect sway bar and everything else will be fine. Just run it like it is. So we get out there and we're running it. And
is that the one Kurt lapped everybody in?
But got disqualified?
No.
No, you didn't. No. I can't remember who it was that got disqualified because they didn't have a score. And I ended up.
There was somebody.
I ended up second instead of third because the second got disqualified. Didn't have a score. And trust me, whoever it is, they tell me about it every time I see them. But in the feature, the heat race, we were pretty good. And I come in and I told them, I said, man, I'm telling you, this car is telling me I need to hook the sway bar up.
Yeah.
They're like, don't do it. They're like, track's going to dry off and it's going to get slick. I'm like, exactly. It's telling me I need to hook the sway bar up. We hooked the sway bar up. Wrong thing to do. Tighter than a dump truck.
Well, I want to let you know something. On the year that I won 54 races in the sportsman division on dirt, I had an 1.5 inch sway bar on it.
Really?
Yeah. 53 of those wins.
Yeah.
Because after 7 wins at Glasgow, they told me I had to take it off.
Really?
Yeah. Because it wasn't factory sway. It wasn't a factory. But I ran a sway bar.
Really?
On dirt. Yeah.
I've never heard of anyone running a sway bar.
I ran a sway bar on dirt, and I ran a 900-pound left rear spring.
Left rear.
Left rear spring.
Yeah.
Stayed up in the air, and you could drive it with the throttle and just turn it.
Yeah.
You just turn it wherever you wanted to. The car never sat down. And the funny thing about that, the reason why that spring ended up in the left rear is because Leonard was with me at the racetrack, And I said, Leonard, grab those 2 springs and put them in the rear and put the blue one in the left rear. It was a 300-pound spring. Leonard put the blue front spring in the left rear, and I'll come back and I get in the car and I'm like, because it was a 10-inch spring. I get in the car and I'm like, the hell? I'm driving up to Tech and it feels
hiked up.
It's hiked up and it feels like, it feels like I'm running on.
You were on bars before being on bars in school.
Yeah, like I couldn't even. It's like it's riding my teeth out. And I go out, and Garnet and Eldridge and me and him were starting on the front row. And when the flagman gave us 5 to go, I was lapping Garnet. With 5 to go, and we went 20 laps and featured green to checker. I lapped everybody one time, and I got all the way. It was like 22 car field. I got all the way up to 3rd as they were getting a checker. I'm lapping 3rd place the second time, and that's when they tell me I got to take the sway bar off. And I'm like, I get home, I'm like, man, that car was hooked up, and when we actually Ricky noticed it. Ricky was still in high school, and he's booming the car down, putting the straps on the car in the back. He goes, hey, come here for a second. He's like, what? He goes, did you tell Leonard to change these springs? I said, yeah. He goes, you ain't gonna believe what he did. I said, what? I never even checked it because they were all my springs back then. I ran 10 inches in the front, 10 inches in the rear because I was running like 300-pound springs on the right front. I was, I had just swatched them. It didn't matter. It was funny though. That's when I learned the old dirt setup. It was on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I could not lose. And that was the same year I hit you at Salem. I had the same setup on.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this sumbitch is gonna be bad fast at Salem. It was for about 10 laps.
Yeah.
That right rear got hot, and it was all she wrote.
Yeah.
So I'm glad Artie crashed about 30 in because I was gonna have a really bad wreck if not. One thing I wanna segue into this. As your career is over, you're crew chief, and you want Alex to run good. Is there any time you ever think about promoting, doing a series? Because
I hope Brian Glaze ain't listening.
Oh, who?
Brian Glaze.
Well, I'm just going to say this because everybody might think about the last race you just did, but I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the one you did at the Sportsdrome when you when the car count dwindled and you got all the street stock guys together and you were able to pull guys that usually would never run there together. Is that something you ever think that it's possible? Because we decided the podcast was the way we was going to stay in racing.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Alex quit, I would probably walk away from it. I still love going to the races. I can go to the racetrack right now and sit down in the stands and watch a race. I went to the 3-hour last year, and it was the first year that I was not going to run. And Kelly was like, what do you think? Are you going to be okay? I'm like, As soon as I see the first wreck, I'll be like, yeah, I'm fine.
I'm not sore.
I said, the thing that'll get me is the fireworks. When you fire off at turn 4, coming to the green, and then fireworks fly off, it's just an ultimate feeling in the race car.
Yeah.
And I said, when that fires off, it might bother me for a little bit. And I said, but again, the first person that hits after that, I'll be glad I wasn't out there. And we run the whole race, had a really good time, and it was over. And she said, well, what'd the fireworks do to you? I'm like, what fireworks? They didn't never show the fireworks. This was the first year for the new owners, too.
Yeah.
I'm like, they didn't do the fireworks. She said, the hell they didn't, Artie. I'm like, I never heard any fireworks. She's like, maybe you were so engulfed with everything else, but the fireworks didn't bother me, I guess. And that's when I knew at that point, I'm okay where I'm at. Would I've liked to won a couple other races here or there or championships or all that, but at the end of the day, I give it my all every time I went to the racetrack. I mean, Huey would make fun of me all the time to do the Artie 500 because I always practiced all the time, but I always won. We were always successful. And then when I went to the Outlaws, most humbling thing as a racer that I ever did, because I was used to winning 10 races a year at least, and now I'm struggling to win one, and it was very humbling, and it made you want to quit. Like, I don't want to come and run third. I want to win. I know I can drive a race car.
Right.
I can't figure out how to do these cars, and and I didn't know what else to do. And I tried to go back to Sportsdrome and run some of the street stock figure 8 stuff, and I done it twice, and it just didn't do it. And the last 2 years, Matt Johnson has been my savior. Matt Johnson has said, hey, if I go out of town, will you drive my car? Well, that's my old car that I won tons of races with. And I said, oh, absolutely. So we show up every year. He's like, well, get in it. Practice first of the year. I'm like, I'm fine. I don't need to. Well, you ain't been in a car all year. You need to get in. I'm like, I'm fine. I get it. He's like, finally, I jump in it. I go out and second or third lap, I'm just as fast as he is. And then I come in. I'm like, just let you know, the old man still got it, you know. And it's funny because you could see it in his eyes. He's got that Raymond Johnson blood. He cannot stand it that I just went and duplicated his lap time. And he'll have to go back out and run one more time and do a couple bonsai laps to get me. And then he'll come in and say, just let you know you ain't got that.
Well, that's funny you said
but
that.
That scratches that itch for me. And I'm like, I love being in a car. I love driving the car. I hate the drama. I do not. I was going to drive. Most people don't know. I done made an agreement upon myself that I'm driving Mike Berry's street stock figure 8 car all season long when he can't, which was going to be me most of the time unless I was at Salem.
Yeah.
And my wife's telling me, don't. You're going to hate it. You're going to hate it. You're going to hate it. I'm like, nah, not really. I think I'll be okay. I said, I've told him I'll run the first 4 races. And then after that, we'll decide from there. She said, what are you going to do the first night something happens? I said, I'll load my stuff up. I'm going to go home. We'll come back. She's like, really? You can do that? I'm like, I've done it once already 2 years ago with the car Ricky Puckett's got now. And I said, I do not have any interest in the drama part of it. It's so drama filled. And that's what I like about Salem for us. You get it. It's racing. But then you get 3 or 4 weeks off. And the guys usually forget who they were mad at.
Yeah.
And then they race somebody else that week, so then they're mad at someone else, and that's long forgotten about.
That's why I never raced for a track championship. That's why I went and raced everywhere.
But that's all I did.
Yeah.
See, Dennis liked to get that paper out, look in that newspaper on Monday and go, hey, we're leading points in 2 different places. This is cool right here. And that sold sponsors, and that was the only thing he demanded out of me. Keep my cars looking good, be at the track, be ready to win races, no matter what it takes. And that instilled in me back then that it's still there. He always joked with me, said he was the chrome wheel guy. And everybody still teasing me about the chrome wheels. I'm like, Dennis put that in my brain because he always said, I don't care if we're fast, but we're going to look good. We just got to look good no matter what. So that Chevelle right there that everybody, we're at the car show one year. It's a 64 Chevelle with a 63 doghouse on it. Steve Foster found it on the train tracks with a tree going. We had to take a sawzall and a generator because didn't have battery tools back then. Cut the tree out of the middle of it and then haul the body back here. And what most people don't know, back then, that was 1998. We paid Scott Toohey $4,000 to paint that car. The inside of that car was striped just like the outside.
Yeah.
The top was purple, the bottom of the doors were red, and had the checkered board down the inside of the body. But that's what Dennis wanted. And he didn't care. That's what we had to make him look good.
Yeah, well, I still got a Chevelle sitting in my mom's on jack stands. So I still got a 65 2-door postcar.
Yeah.
But it's my dad tells me all the time, we need to get that thing out and we'll make a street rod out of it.
Yeah, get rid of the old rat rod, make that a rat rod.
Yeah, I probably can't get rid of the rat rod. I mean, I personally probably could get rid of the rat rod, but it would kill my dad if I did. That was the that was when my dad's health was just getting bad, and that was the last thing we've ever built together. So
that ain't going nowhere.
That thing's gonna bury me. It's not going nowhere.
That's the way mine is. Everybody asks me, "You ever sell it?" I said, "That car will never be sold
ever. There's not a price."
My dad always wanted a 2-door Impala, and he always said he was going to paint one up and just like one of my race cars and just drive it as a street car. So it's kind of been something I've always kind of wanted to do, but I'm like, if I do that, I'm gonna make a full-blown race car out of it. And take it to street rods and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I may do that with the Chevelle because the Chevelle was the last race car me and my dad built together. So that's like I priced it to some people before, but when they want to start negotiating, it's non-negotiable. Yeah. It don't cost me nothing sitting up there. I mean, it's
here's what it is.
You know, so the rat rod, I will not. It will not go nowhere.
I didn't realize you and him built that.
Yeah. Well, I built it, and he walked over. Cause that's when I lived next door to him. still to this day, like, I love where we live and everything, but you know, like, it was so cool. Like this bullshit session here, I'd walk over and say, "Hey, Dad, I need to use your cutters," and we'd do this for 2 hours.
Take 2 hours to get out.
Yeah. So I miss that every day. But it's a real funny saying. So on his truck that he built, he had Irwin letter "Hey, Dad" on it, because that was every night, like, "Hey, Dad,
hey, Dad,
I need you to walk over here." Like. He'd be walking in his back door to go in the house, and my garage door, I could look right in his back door. So he's walking in, I'm like, "Hey, Dad, like, come over here. I got a question about this." Yeah. So that was the last thing that we've built together, and it's, like I said, that thing is going to be around forever. So no promoting for.
I went down to this last race in Florida, and I really enjoyed. I truly enjoy doing that. And getting out with the racers and all that. I truly, truly love doing that. Like, Yoho didn't even pay my way in for that race. I paid for my own way. He didn't give me nothing out of that. I asked him if I could put a race on, and he paid the purse and let me take care of everything else. And he said yes. So I thought, this is cool, and I enjoy doing it. Ultimately, what I would like to do is we'd like to put a big street stock race on there, and he tells me, if you get me 40 cars, I'll pay $10,000. So all the guys that ran there the last time, I done that race one other time, and we made it strictly CRA rules, and we had like 24 guys show up, and then at the last minute, Yoho comes out, total invert, right before we're starting the race.
Oh yeah, that's Yoho's way.
So everybody's mad at him, and nobody's ever coming back. All the fast guys still made it to the front. And the reason for the total invert, they're guys with 3/4 second off. And he's like, if I don't give them something to where they feel like they was running up front for a little bit, they're never going to come back here and run with these guys. I said, I get it, but you just pissed off 24 guys that ain't coming back.
Yeah.
And none of them guys came.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, you've got to back off. Let me do my thing and have my back. He's like, okay. So I'm nervous the whole time. I got guys coming from Maine in New Hampshire down to this race with some suspect chassis and stuff that I don't know how this is going to work out. And all the CRA guys are scared to death of Royce Harmon's car. And I'm like, man,
they're scared to death of the long quarter panels and automatic transmission.
114-inch wheelbase. Yeah. Cast iron headers. Yeah. And I'm like, I hope it comes down to Royce Harmon, a CRA guy, and these New Hampshire guys. That's what I hope happens. And lo and behold, that's what it did then. The top 6 or 8 guys battled back and forth and swapped the lead a bunch. The mid-pack guys got a few wrecks that caused some cautions that probably didn't need to happen. I think we need to change it to 100 laps, so maybe they'll calm down a little bit. But, man, I really enjoyed that, and I've always thought about it, but I don't know how you would even go to tracks, because you need to go to other places and go, hey, give me your racetrack. And you pay this purse, and I'm going to bring you 40 cars in. I don't want nothing for it, but we're going to put this race on, and I'm going to get a bunch of guys to come in and race for you. I done all the red, white, and blue series. That was me. I done that with Joel Coleman back then. And he kicked me out of the racetrack, and I'm the one to set it all up. Because
he kicked me out, too.
Me and Dale Shelton were battling for the championship, and Dale, something happened to Dale, and he didn't finish well in the second to last race. And then on the championship night, all I had to do was start the race, and I had a championship locked up. And you know how us racers are. Dale Shelton's leading, and I dive bomb him a couple of times, and I finally cut his rear tire off and spun him out.
Artie was trying to knock the Krispy Kreme off the T-Bird.
Yeah.
So, lo and behold, Dale Shelton didn't go Dale Shelton on me and tear both our stuffs up. He went in, fixed his tire, and come back out and raced. And when it was over, he come up and told me it was the dirtiest thing he's ever seen anybody do, and I was not even welcome to take my picture at the racetrack. Well, the guy that sponsored the event, he come over to me. He said, I'm demand a picture with him. We're going to take a picture in the pits with him. I paid money for this, and he's won my championship, so he's going to get a picture taken with me. I leave the racetrack, and Joel Cohen's at the gas station flipping me off. I swing my truck and trailer back around, and I come back to him, and we're fighting. When I get in here, we're fighting. I get in, he hops in his Expedition or Suburban, whatever it was, and he takes off. I'm calling him like, what was all that about? He's like, that's dirty. That was dirty. I'm like, dirty? It was racing hard. I've never seen anybody wreck somebody for a championship like that. That was dirty. I said, I didn't have to do nothing. I had the championship won by starting. Yeah. all I did was get a little aggressive, and
Yeah.
I was going to win the
Dale
damn race. Yeah.
And what funny story of that is I tried to buy that car from Dale Shelton, and he wouldn't sell it to me. David Baines finally got it from him, and David didn't like it because he didn't want to run Sportsdrome anymore. I had a stock body car, so we changed. We swapped, just traded even. And I got that T-Bird. I took it to Sportsdrome, and the video still, Mike Berry still shares it every once in a while. He cut my tire down in a heat race, and I was going to crash him, and I didn't.
Yeah.
But I raced that car. 3 tires got cut off in the first night, and then like 4 tires got cut off the second night I ran
Karma.
it. Yeah.
That's karma.
And I'm like,
so what you get for cutting that damn
I'm
tire
like,
off?
no, I said, Dale Shelton probably wanted to kill me all these years with this car. And then Dennis come to me, he said, that body's coming off. Because everybody knew that tire stuck out, half the tire tread
Yeah.
stuck out. And I was just too aggressive, I guess, to drive that tire with tires hanging out like that.
Well, the reason why I asked that, because I know how much these cars that you guys are running cost, at Salem and the CRA stuff. And to be honest, I've been to 328 racetracks. So I've seen what works, I've seen what doesn't work, and what people say they think works, like the CRA division, and it's just breaking people. It's not as healthy as everybody thinks it is.
No.
Yes, they get 40 cars. Okay, well, we got 160.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
And only 24 of them are racing.
yeah. So the reason why I say that, because I think we need, not we, because I'm not involved with it no more, but you guys, the pavement street stock guys, it needs to be a reset. I know a lot of guys, like, you got a new car, you don't want to hear that, but going forwards, I think you guys need kind of like the IMCA hobby stock rule. It's a $7,000 race car. You can run a 355 engine, or you can run a 602 weight brakes, but you run stock mount shocks because they still look like race cars. And what you're talking about, if all those tracks got together, Speedrome, Sportsdrome, Anderson, Salem, every pay track, let's get a sanction together, and because if not, pavement racing is dying out. And we're a dirt guy, so like I could say I don't care about that, but I do, because that's where I grew up. I don't go anymore. I probably go 3 times a year, but when I go, it's kind of, I don't want to say sickening, but it's, as you look and you're like, man, because when you're involved in it, you're wrapped up in it. Just like we talked about the 3-hour. This is the best thing going. I'm involved in it. I see this every day. But from the outside looking in, something's got to be done, or we're all going to be done. So that's why I was asking if, do you think maybe you could promote a series?
And we don't really have much of that around here anymore. Salem was doing really well. They were averaging almost 30 cars a race.
Yeah.
And then they joined this alliance deal, try to do the same thing. Hey, we need to all get on board. CRA comes to Salem and says, hey, we got to get on board here, or we're going to die. We get on board, and it hurt Salem. Salem lost cars because of it. You
want my opinion on that, though, from a guy from afar that watched that?
Yeah.
Salem lost cars, and it wasn't because of the alliance. They lost cars because they were racing 12 times a year, and they tried to run 20. And once guys start breaking engines, tearing up race cars, and you realize, I don't have nothing to do the next 6 months. Oh, it's kind of fun going to the lake. It's kind of fun hanging out with my wife that I haven't seen in 20 years.
Yeah.
That's what lost the race cars.
Yeah.
It's not everybody getting together. Can Glenn piss people off? Yeah. But any promoter. It don't matter who it is.
Yeah.
It could be Glenn Luckett, Andy Vertrees, me. Hell, I piss people off every day. Yeah. So that's the...
Can you imagine what I could do as a promoter?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I said, somebody asked me one time, you ever think about running a race? I'm like, shit. Yeah. You guys think everybody around here is bad? I'd make Scroggins drivers meeting at Clarksville sound nice.
I had a couple guys that I had heard through the grapevine were going to come to Florida and run that race. And I told a few different people, I'm like, man, I really love seeing racers show up, and I don't want to turn nobody away for nothing. God, I hope they don't show up, because they will be in my ass the whole entire time, and I want to go there and have a good time. And
so Artie didn't want Artie's to show up. You see that? Well, that's a.
I'm so competitive. No matter what I do, I don't care what it is. If it's being on this podcast, I want to be the best I could be.
Yeah.
And
Okay. So you're gonna need to get 4,000 listens.
Yeah.
Because we just put it out there.
Sharing.
Yeah. Just put it out there. You're gonna need because
Tell everybody you know.
Yeah.
because
We get this crew. We'll have enough.
Yeah. So it's like we've been doing pretty good, but the last few weeks it's snowballed, and we don't really know why. So just let you know, no pressure.
Better. Yeah, it's getting better. I mean, it's just self-inflicting. Yeah. The more it gets out there, the more it's going to get. You know, it's going to get bigger and better, and the more people will share it, and they'll read it. I'm like, I just never was a podcast guy.
Yeah.
My wife listens to books. I'm like. She'll watch a movie with the subtitles.
Yeah.
I'm like, how can you watch a movie and do that?
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't listen to a movie because my eyes are seeing something else and it's telling me what to do here. I can't do it. But once I found ways to do it was driving to work. You know, I got a 40-minute drive to work on most days. And I'll throw one of them on there and I'll listen to it. And then most of them are about an hour to 2 hours long. So I can get one way in and one way home, and I get to listen to it, and it's not too bad. So that's something that I've learned to do to help pass my time when I'm driving, rather than listen to commercials and everything else. I was listening to you guys.
Yeah.
So the more you share that, and people are like, I'm not watching that. But then they'll see, oh man, I'm a big fan of Chris Harmon, and he's on there. So they listen to Chris, and then they see that, and I'm like, well, that was pretty cool. And then they'll see Raymond on there and like, I hate him. I don't like. And then they listen to him and go, man, you know what? That dude is good. He's a good dude, you know. And you'll see a different perspective of drivers. And I think that's one good thing about this, because I told Kurt before the show, there are so many people out there that only know Artie, the race car driver.
Right. Yeah.
Everywhere we go, my wife's like, really, you don't have a clue who that was, dude. They're like, hey man, what's going on?
I get that a lot.
And I'm like, hey, what's up, buddy? You know, and she's like, no
Who's
clue,
that?
do you? I'm like, not a clue. But they know me from the racetrack.
Right.
And so you gotta just kind of act like you know them. It's not disrespectful or nothing, but they only know that person.
Yeah, we were Tanya and I was at Disney World, and we were standing in line at Disney World, and this guy comes up to me, hey man, how you been? I talked to him for 10 minutes because I talked to the wall, and she goes, who was that? I said, no clue. No. Couldn't even tell you if I've ever seen him before.
Happens all the time. And she's like, I don't know how you play it off so well. I'm like, it's just, you just kind of, when you're a talker, you can talk to people, and you know, that's how I get these sponsors, is I know how to talk to people. I try to be the same person outside of that racetrack. I try to still be that same person. And we're all different when we put a helmet on. And hopefully people will listen to these things and realize that we're not that same person that you may hate because we beat your favorite driver.
Well, we're going to end on this because it's funny that you said that, but people ask me all the time, like they'll send me a list of guests. Like, I really want to hear this. I want to hear. I put my first show out. I said, just chill, just chill. There's a method to the madness. Okay, like the reason why we're doing this the way we are, we can't do every old racetrack segment. And we're damn near 30 weeks into this.
Yeah.
So if we were done everybody that you guys want, you would have nothing to listen to next year. Yeah. like guys, when stories come out, like a lot of people don't understand this, and we've been trying to stress this because this episode will be out in a couple weeks because I've got like a real life where I got to do like real chores, real take care of my wife, real jobs. So like I can't record this tonight and then work on it all night and then be out tomorrow.
Right.
Because we're not getting rich off this. So
But if there's any sponsors out there,
we
are taking donations.
So we got ourselves a sponsor. Yeah. So we picked up a sponsor. But thank you, Brandon Hooker at Diesel Boys. Thank you.
Yeah.
He's really come on and helped out.
He's a really good dude. Yeah. He helps out a lot of people.
Yeah, that's and the funny thing about him, like he said, obviously I listened to your brother's show. I liked it. I said, well, thank you. And he goes, how come you didn't have him on before then? I said, well, it's kind of like what we just talked about. It's like there's some things that we wanted to put in place before we just start throwing out all these interviews. Yeah. Like, I mean, we our first 4 or 5 guests.
First thing we wanted people listening first before we got everybody on.
Yeah. So, but like our first 4 or 5 guests were scheduled because, hey, I want to get this group engaged before we get started to the next group. Like the week that Mike Gibson's interview came out, everybody's like, "How'd you get Mike on short note?" I'm like, "Short note? I don't know what the hell is going on." You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So, but we're trying to do this not for us. I mean, we have a good time doing it, but for you guys, for the fans, for the racers. Cool. Well, there's so much, as you said, drama. There's so much drama in racing and social media. Like, I'm glad when I quit racing, that was right when social media was a thing, but it wasn't like I couldn't race in nowadays social media because I would have to have 6 clips ready to go on.
Oh yeah.
All the shit I gave my little brother, I can kind of understand it, looking back. But we really appreciate you coming on, and like I said, for everybody that sent out, hey, when you gonna have Artie on? Same way with Chris. It was you, Chris, were the ones that every week I would get a text every week. When you gonna have them on? When you gonna have them on? I'm like, just chill.
Chris has a really big following, and it's kind of a quiet following.
Yeah.
Like Raymond, he has a big group, and they're like vocal.
Yeah.
I want to hear. Same with me. You have a lot of people that speak up, and it's either one or the other. Chris, you either like him or you don't care.
Yeah.
Me and Raymond, it was like you like him or you hate him type deal. And we were doing a fan appreciation night at Sportsdrome, and this lady fan hated me. I mean, flipping me off every time I rode by her on the racetrack. And she's got this little bitty kid with her, and me and Raymond are parked next to each other for fan appreciation. And this little kid is jonesing to get near my car. I always had good-looking cars, and the kids wanting to come look, and she's tugging him away. Well, Raymond goes out, being Raymond, grabs this little kid and says, "Hey, buddy, you like that car right there?" I'm like, "Nah, Raymond, don't do this. She hates me." And he's like, "You want to sit in this car?" He's like, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Man, Raymond," he said, "Artie, is it okay?" I'm like, "Well, of course it's okay. I can't say no."
No, he's not. I really want to piss her off.
So he lets the kid get in the car. And he's standing up, puts the steering wheel on. He's driving it, and having a great time. And finally, she's just had enough and has to get him out of the car. So she gets him out of the car, and they leave, and she's storming off. And I'm like, "Man, why'd you do that to me? Why? She hates me."
Yeah.
He said, "Man, I just done you the biggest favor ever." Like, "What's that?" He said, "I just give her a dose of her own medicine." Like, "What do you mean?" He said, "I just made that kid's day. The whole ride home, and all he's going to talk about is what a great person you are and how much he loves your race car. And she can't ever say nothing bad about you again." I'm like, I never thought about it that way.
So we gotta look at it in the eyes of Raymond sometimes.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you have to have guys like that on your show.
Oh, yeah.
That have the following. It's not dumb. Why would you want to put someone on that has 2 people follow them and go, "Oh, nobody's going to watch this show"? You put people on hoping that it's interesting, hoping that their people will watch it, and they share it with their people,
right?
And then they'll watch the next interview. And then
they'll go back and
"Wait a minute, I seen a side of Artie that was different than what I anticipated. Maybe I ought to check out these other guys."
Well, that's what I said. Like when we first started doing this, I was like, "Guys, we don't really know what we're doing." Like, I mean, this is no joke. This is no bullshit. Like, we really don't know what we're doing. But we know the guys that we're doing. Right. You know what I'm saying? We know what we're good at, which isn't much, but what we are good at, we're good at. So that's what we're going to do. It's neat to me because we got dirt guys crossing over with paved guys. We got paved guys following dirt guys. We got guys like, I don't know if you know this, but the old racetrack song?
Yes.
Jeff Ward? Mm-hmm. Well, we had him on the show. Before we did the first old racetrack segment, out of anybody, we had Jeff Ward come on. He sat at my kitchen table and performed the song live on the show. So everybody out there, I know that was in one of our first few episodes, but that's how we introduced the old racetrack segment. Go check it out. It may be my favorite show we've ever done because it was totally off the wall. Just, I mean, it was something kind of like Nashville-ish.
Yeah.
And we had no idea how it was going to turn out, but
the
cool as hell.
The thing I can say is just keep it real. Just do what you're doing.
Yeah.
You guys are just talking life, sharing stories. And that's what, at the end of the day, people just really want to hear some of that stuff.
There's a ton of racing stories that Kurt and I, like, on the road. We've traveled probably what?
Oh, there ain't no telling.
We're probably close to 500,000 miles together.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, we've been traveling all over the country, and there's some shit that happened that, trust me, you wouldn't believe it if there was video footage. All right, before we get off here, Artie, I'm going to ask you, this is kind of putting you on the spot. We do this all the time, and well, you've listened to enough shows. You know it's coming, but if I'm going to put a disclaimer out, because he did this for 35, 36 years. If he left you off, message me. Don't message him. But who do you want to thank? And, who was your biggest influences over the years of racing? Because, for 35 years, who helped you get along from the get-go?
Man, every interview that I would do in Victory Lane, I would look at them while they're doing the interview and talking, and I would kind of mimic the words. Don't ask for sponsors, because you will always forget one, and then you go home and you're like, oh my God, it may be a big sponsor, maybe a little sponsor, but you don't want to forget any of them. But outside of just straight up sponsors, if anyone knows me or follows my racing, my car has always been full of sponsors, and there's no way in the world I could ever announce every person that ever sponsored me. But what I would like to do is go back from like day one, and this is going to be tough. The people that have put me in race cars, I'm going to try that.
Well,
and see, because I have, like I said, I only paid for racing 1 year. All the other years that I raced, I've run on someone else's nickel. And
dime and quarter.
Yeah. Sometimes big dollars. I started off driving for my dad. For obvious reasons, and then my cousins Doug and Dennis Burba, they started racing, and they put me in a car, and then I went back to my dad for a little bit. We kind of teamed up with them, and then Dennis Knoll come to me and wanted me to drive a car. I drove for Dennis for about 16 years or so. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. And then he decided he wanted to get out of racing. And he sold me and everything to Bobby Corbin. I drove for Bobby Corbin for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. And then Dennis decided he wanted to get back in it. So Dennis bought me and the car back, and then we're back racing for Dennis again. And then I sold everything and went over racing for the 1 year. I was going to drive for myself. Then Jeff Roberts come to me and said, hey, man, I'd like to have you drive my car. So I drove for Jeff for about 3 years. Right before I drove for Dennis, I drove for Tony Anderson. Actually, the first year I met my wife, I did not race at all. And me and Tony being brother-in-laws, ex-brother-in-laws.
That's a whole other episode.
Still like family to me, though. He offered me to drive one of his cars, so we did, and I was like, Kelly, you have no idea what you're getting into, because she had never even been to the racetrack. So I drove for Tony for a year or two, off and on a little bit. I think we ended up finishing out 1 year and then starting another year, and then I quit in the middle of that year. After Bobby Corbin, and went back to Dennis, and then went to Jeff Roberts. After Jeff Roberts, I went back to Dennis again, and then Dennis finally said, you know what, I'm done, all the way done. And then Eric Hester come along and picked me up, and I drove for Eric for a few years. I want to say about 6 or 7 years, something like that. And then I kind of stayed with him the whole entire time until he finally built a brand new car and spent a bunch of money. And I just told him, man, I said, the drama's getting bad. My body hurts. My back, I got 3 ruptured discs in my lower back. I just can't hardly do it anymore. And if you don't sell the car, I will run the 3 hour, because that's the only race he really cared about. And I said, but if you don't sell it, I'll run that race. But know that we probably need to run 2 or 3 before then. He's like, okay, that's cool, but I'm going to try to sell it. And then he made a deal with Eddie Van Meter, and Eddie and him kind of hooked up. So then I just kind of stepped away and like, okay, I'm definitely good. I'm okay where I'm at. I don't enjoy racing just to be racing anymore. So that's when I decided, I've had enough. It's time to go. So, and then throughout all those years, my dad was probably the most influential of all of them. Get me where I was going and teach me the hard way to set cars up. We didn't have scales and technologies. It was the old 1-inch socket underneath the center of the rear end, checking your wedge. And we cut a 15-inch level, taped a protractor to it so we could set our caster and camber inside the wheel. And then when I got with Dennis Knoll, that's when I kind of started hooking up with Huey Darnell and he done a whole lot of cheating on Raymond and Calvin's cars, so he would teach me what we were doing, and I'd help him at nights cut their cars up, and so then we'd do it to mine. I'd say physically it was my dad that taught me the most, and I don't know how to word it, but Huey probably taught me the most about geometry and things like that on the car to try to make them better, what makes them go and not go. Other than that, that's one thing I prided myself on. All these years I've raced, I've never had someone like that in my pocket. And I've always just kind of thought, I wonder what I could have done as much as I did do. Could I've done more if I had someone else like him? But it always made my wins more special because I didn't have that guy. But it wasn't from lack of asking Huey and those guys questions and old man Pike and those type guys that run all that racing back then. But I just never had them in my corner 100%. And I can't remember. I think that's about the only ones that I drove for. I'm pretty sure that's it. It's like, say, 35 years. It's hard to sit back and remember all of them. And I might have jumped in somebody's car for a couple races here or there throughout the deals, but I've done tons of that. But as far as someone actually owning my car and me driving for them, that's about the best list I could come up with off of this old head.
Well, and like I said, when I don't really like putting people on the spot, and the main reason is because I want this to be organic. I don't want to say, I'm asking you these questions, you have the answer.
Shooting from the hip is where it's at. I think.
So I don't like doing that.
Because I knew you were going to hit me with that. I've watched enough or listened to enough of your podcasts. I knew I was going to get that, and I was like, man, I really don't know how to answer that. And the best thing that I could do, and me, like I say, I've always want to be prepared and do what I can do. I cannot believe that I didn't physically sit down and write down car owners in years, because that's the way my mind works sometimes. I told myself I was going to come home and I'm going to get a picture of every single car that I had, and I wrote down the years. I wrote down the description in my mind, what the car was, and I never done anything else with it. So I really wanted to have this because I didn't want to forget anybody on that. Now, I know I can't count sponsors, and there's just I can't even remember all my sponsors that are on Alex's car right now, let alone them for 35 years.
I don't know, we try to do it organically. We try to, it's tough on my end because my wife tells me all the time, she's like, you're going to put somebody in a really bad spot. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want it to sound, I don't want it to sound cheesy. And then once I started listening to some of these, I'm thinking, God, some of these guys are going to be in trouble. This is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about it. And there's no notes.
Right.
We're just guessing. Like you.
And that's what's natural about it. I like that side of it because, like I say, you're shooting from the hip, and you're going to make the mistakes. You're going to forget somebody. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, them people appreciate what you done for them as well as we appreciate what they done for me. And the big boss of all of them is the wife that we all forget. We'll go through interviews and on track and victory lane and think this guy to give us money and this guy to give us money and bought us tires. Like, oh man, I forgot about my wife that's raising my 3 kids at home and feeding them and getting them to daycares.
The one that's done my laundry every night. The one that washed my pants and had gear roll on it with her work clothes.
Soaking your racing suit and down dishwashing.
Right. And I come home and I had 4 Mac Tool shirts that were just ruined in gear oil. And for some reason, I thought my wife could get them clean.
Oh, yeah.
And when I brought them in the house, she's like, what are you doing with them? I'm like, you're going to clean them, right? She's like, no, I'm not cleaning them. Throw them in the garbage outside, not even in the house.
Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that I learned a long time ago because I got my favorite Tony Stewart dirt late model shirt. My dad taught me this a long time ago. And you take a little Tide soap powder, rub on it, and put Dawn dish sugar on it, and hang it up and pressure wash it. Before you ever wash it, that some bitch comes clean as a whistle.
Really?
And get almost anything out. You rub it in dry, put a little Dawn on it, and use a pressure washer. You can get almost anything clean. Dad taught me that.
I'm going to need you to text me that because I've got my last fire suit. All the years, one regret that I have in racing, all the things that I'd done, all the cars that I had. And when I was coming through, I'd get a new fire suit and I'd give it to some new young kid coming up. And I never kept any of that stuff. I really wish I would have kept more things to use. Like, you know, Rick Irwin's called me, man, what you got for the Hall of Fame I can use? I said, I got my 1996 Rookie Figure 8 Championship ring. Yeah. That's it, man. I didn't save nothing.
Yeah, I didn't give everything else away.
But when I committed to quitting and said I'm done, the last race that I ran, I got that uniform. And the pants aren't bad, but I don't know why all the chest of it is just terrible filthy.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking, man, I need to take that to the car wash and just hang it up on the mat thing and just pressure wash it and see if it would get it clean.
Dawn dish detergent and dry Tide soap powder.
Yeah, because I'm saving. I'm going to hang on to that one. It is one thing that I'm going to hang on to.
But don't look. Word of advice: somebody that screwed up hats, shoes, you need to be about 12 inches away from it. Don't get on there. Don't. Right up on it. Yeah. You're gonna blow a hole right through it someday. Yeah. You're gonna look like you lived over in Edgewood. You got bullet holes in it. Yeah. But we really appreciate you coming on. 6-time track champion, 4th at Sportsdrome, 1 at Whitesville, 1 at the Speedrome, Louisville Motor Speedway, close to 200 wins. The innovator of the Artie Party, 35 years. Artie B. Ware. Thank you.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
There we go, Flash. That was Artie B. Ware on this week's old racetrack segment / deep dives. Was teasing with Artie about calling him the old man now.
Yeah,
but
he's one of the old guys now, like us.
Yeah, he's like us. He's one of those old cats. I think a lot of people that listen to this interview, because Artie said it himself, either you're an Artie fan or you're not.
Or you're not. Yep.
I think a lot of people that wasn't may say, you know what, I kind of like that dude now.
Yeah.
Because you got to see a different side of Artie. You didn't get to see the side of, hey, I'm going to stick it in there, cut your tire off because I'm trying to win.
Yeah.
You got to see the side of Artie that, thinks betterment of the sport. And, I thought that was a really good interview.
Yeah. I thought it was really good.
I think, and not just Artie, but all the guys that we do, I think a lot of people get a misperception of how this person is. We have people, I have people that say, man, them Bennett's, they're rough. I'm like, rough? Shit. Yeah, they're fighting all the time. I've been in a fight with Flash. Yeah. They ain't no fighters. So people get misconceptions of stuff. Right. That's the main reason why we're doing this, and that's one of the cool things about not just the old racetrack segments, even the deep dives.
Yeah.
I had some people reach out last week and said, after our Jordan Weaver interview, and said, I always thought he was a spoiled rich kid.
Yeah.
I was like, he's far from that.
Yeah.
He is far from a spoiled rich kid. He's just a kid that works and races.
Yeah.
So, that's the reason why we're doing this. Is, we want to bring light to, motorsports. And everything that you see isn't... My grandpa told me this a long time ago. He said, believe nothing you hear and half of the stuff you see.
Right, exactly.
And the older I get, at first I was like, what the hell is he talking about? Yeah. The older I get, I realize what he's saying. Because even if you're living it real time, you think you're seeing it, you're not 100% seeing it. Yeah. So
growing up at the racetrack too, it kind of goes back to all this. You sit in the stands, like I sat in the stands till I was 14 years old, so I'm thinking, man, I don't like this guy, I don't like this guy. And then you go back in the pits, when you finally start to go back there and you get to start seeing these guys and actually talking to them, it's like, man, that guy's actually really cool. It's not nothing like what I thought he was. Well, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here, is let people know that everybody ain't exactly the only person you see is what you see the guy driving the race car. Yeah. It's not always like that.
Well, that's like, a lot of people get a bad rap, like Raymond Johnson. And my little brother is the same way. You say, man, he's rough. He'll wreck you to win a race. Well, guess what? When somebody else gets crashed, they're usually the first two people at the Sportsdrome over to help them.
Oh, yeah. That's what we're trying to do here, is let people realize that everybody ain't what you think they are.
No. And that's the same way with Artie. That's one thing a lot of people didn't know this, and then I brought it up in the interview. Like, Artie and I are kind of cousins.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how that works, but we haven't always seen eye to eye on a lot of stuff. But what I think he is trying to do for Artie's been a guy that could always bring people together.
Yeah.
Good or bad.
Yeah.
I mean, he can bring 10 people together to kick his ass, or he can bring 10 people together to sell sponsors, make it work.
Right.
And I think he's got a vision for after racing if he wants to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he really wants to do it, but he's put together 3 or 4 races where everybody's come together, and not a lot of guys could pull that off.
Right.
I think I'm a fan of Artie Ware. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't always. Hell, I almost killed him one time.
Yeah.
But that's just part of it. But really good interview, and we appreciate Artie Ware for coming on. And so we're going to get into this upcoming events and then get off here. Upcoming events this week, we got 2 in our area that we can check out. The Northern All-Star Late Models, Spring 50 at Florence Speedway. $10,000 to win for the late models.
Yeah.
I think it's $1,500 or $2,000 to win for the Northern All-Star mods. So you get a double header at Florence Speedway. If the weather does what it says it's going to do in our area, rain a couple of days and then get out of here and be in the 70s.
Yeah.
Florence Speedway should be in prime shape.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And I know a guy that has really been running good the last couple of nights. Josh Rice and Jason Jameson are going to be tough to deal with at Florence Speedway Saturday night.
Yep. Both of them guys will be up front. You can guarantee that.
Just put it out there. And then Saturday at Brownstown Speedway, they had the Midwest Thunder 410 non-wing sprint cars at Brownstown. And the last year may have been the race of the year at Brownstown, the non-wing sprint cars.
Right.
The Midwest Thunder 410 series, I think they got like 34 dates this year. It's the old Midwest Sprint Car Series. It's a traveling series, and you get a bunch of regional stuff. So I think they had, how many did they have at Paragon the other night?
Had 30?
32, something.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So last year, I think they averaged close to 40 cars a race. So,
right.
And nobody else is running this weekend, so there's a good chance that Brownstown will get a good car count. And then Friday and Saturday, High Limit is at Central Arizona Speedway in Casa Grande, I think that's how they say it.
Casa Grande.
Casa Grande. So I think High Limit's going to get a pretty decent car count out there because I don't think the 360s are running anywhere this week out in California. So I think they'll get some good car count at Central Arizona. And then the World of Outlaws sprint cars make their trip into Oklahoma at Lanton Speedway in Lanton, Oklahoma. And then the 81 Speedway in I want to say Hutchinson, Kansas, but I think it's it's somewhere in central Kansas. I don't know the name of it. So, that's what's going on. World Outlaws will be on Dirt Vision. High Limit will be on Flow.
Yeah.
Northern All-Stars will be on Hunt the Front TV.
Yeah.
And the Midwest Thunder 410 Sprints, I think, might be Dirt 2 Media. I think. Yeah. I don't know on that. Oh, and the USMTS is on Racing Dirt. So there's plenty to check out this week.
Lucas Oil's off, so I think Northern All-Stars might get some extra cars this week, too, at Florence, maybe. The local, at least the guy's close.
Lucas Oil's off, and so is World of Outlaws.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a good check. But I think a lot of guys may be going to the Nippy 50 over in Iowa, too. It's this weekend.
Yeah.
I'll put that on the list, too. Nippy 50 over Macoca Paul or...
Oh, yeah.
I can't say the name of the damn track. I'm sure Chase is going to make fun of me again because another track I can't pronounce. But it's over in Iowa. Pretty good racetrack. It used to be at Davenport. I can say that, but they moved it. So, so the Nippy 50 this weekend. I think I seen where Bobby Pierce is going up there. So besides that, anything else this week, Flash?
I can't think of anything.
All right. So we say this every week. Like, comment, share.
Tell somebody.
Tell somebody. Word of mouth is the best form of advertisement. If you like what we're doing, please tell somebody. If you don't like what we're doing, tell somebody anyways, because they may.
Yeah.
But we are on. I always forget. I should put this in the open, but I always forget. We are on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and for the 5 people that keep sending me the same message every week, Apple is hard to deal with, and I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So we are working on that.
Hey, you ain't got nothing in the garage right now, so
garage work is caught up. So I might get some podcast stuff done this week. Yeah. We will see. If anybody needs any race car parts or any race cars worked on, call somebody else this week.
Yeah.
This is the first time I haven't had a car in my garage in since before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for that. So let's not hit me up this week. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I'm being very grateful. Let's not hit me up. Until next time, we'll be trading sliders.